Alrighty, good morning, everybody. The time is 9:06. We're going to go ahead and begin today's meeting. City Clerk, could you please take the roll call?
Certainly. Councilmember Carbasi.
Present.
Councilmember Arias will be absent today.
Would like to note for the record that that was an excused absence
Thank
by
you.
Councilmember Arias. Yep.
Perfect. Councilmember Chavez.
Here.
Councilmember Bredefeld.
Here.
Councilmember Esparza.
Present.
Vice President Perea.
Here.
And Council President Maxwell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, City Clerk. I would like to make a brief announcement before we go further in today's council meeting. After numerous complaints from the public, including folks in the chamber at previous meetings and folks watching at home, complaining about their view being obstructed, I have consulted with our city attorney's office. I'm going to be implementing a new rule today. You're allowed to hold signs in the chamber. That's your prerogative. But if you're going to be holding signs, we ask that you do it either in the back row or on the perimeter. When your 3 minutes is here to speak, you're also welcome to hold up a sign at that time. So we're going to be moving forward with that rule from here on out. And again, that's to make sure that folks at home and in the chambers are able to see. So if you could please lower your signs or move to the back of the chamber to be in compliance with the new rule, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. All right, next up is the invocation, which will be led by Pastor Franklin from Cornerstone Church. I'm going to ask everyone to rise and to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards, which will be administered by Councilmember Bredefeld.
Thank you. Good morning. Let's pray. God, we thank you for this wonderful day. We thank you for all of these council members and those that are in this chamber to work on things together, to figure out how to get to resolutions and to make decisions. God, I pray that the peace of your spirit would be in this room. I pray that you'd give us wisdom and revelation moving forward. God, I pray that we'd have peaceful discord even when we're trying to challenge out through some things where we need to find unity on. God, I thank you for that. God, I pray that you would bless the family members, the spouses, and all those that are connected to those that serve this city. God, thank you for blessing Fresno and the greater Fresno area. Be in this room today. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor, for today's invocation. City Clerk, do we have any changes to today's agenda?
Yes, I do have a few changes, but first a quick announcement. We do have Spanish, Hmong, and Punjabi translators available through Zoom. We do have an in-house Spanish translator, Laura. She will quickly address the audience and let them know her services.
Buenos días, me llamo Laura, yo estaré proporcionando la interpretación para la Junta del Consejo Municipal. Estaré aquí por si se les ofrece para proporcionar también el equipo de interpretación para que puedan escuchar. Y también estoy aquí para si se les ofrece dar un comentario público aquí enfrente. También estamos aquí para ayudar con esa parte de la interpretación.
Thank you very much. And as for changes to the agenda, first up, ceremonial presentation, ID 231249 for Hispanic Heritage Month. Mayor Dyer has been added as a co-sponsor to that item. Also, ceremonial presentation 231213 for Captain Anthony Martinez Day is also being co-sponsored by Vice President Perea. And we have file ID 231327, that is consent calendar item 1B, regarding the acceptance of the 2022 Fire Prevention and Safety Grant Award. The dollar amount listed for this item is incorrect. The 2022 Fire Prevention and Safety Grant Award is in the amount of $89,257.46, not $98,659.23. So the correct dollar amount is $89,257.46. Consent calendar item 1P, that is file ID 231298, regarding the summary vacation of a portion of public street easement at the southeast corner of East Shaw Avenue and North Fresno Street. The resolution for this item is not subject to veto. On the agenda, it is listed as subject, but it is not subject to mayoral veto. Consent calendar item 1T, that is file ID 231296, regarding the Infectious Disease Lab Accountability and Transparency Ordinance, adding section 9-110 to chapter 9 of the Fresno Municipal Code. The agenda title incorrectly lists the introduction date as September 14th. The record should reflect the introduction date as August 24th, 2023. Then we have consent calendar item, general administration item 3B. That is file ID 231153, regarding the creation of the Animal Center Department. The resolution refers to creating the Animal Services Department. It should read, creating the Animal Center Department. So not services, but center. And the following items have been removed from the agenda. First up, we have consent calendar item 1U. That is file ID. 1U is file ID 231285. That is regarding the bill to amend the municipal code relating to human rights, including protections against discrimination. That was removed from the agenda by Vice President Perea with no return date. And lastly, we have the 10:25 a.m. item number 1. That is file ID 231276. Consideration of an appeal filed regarding vesting tentative tract map number 6366 and plan development permit application P22-04877. That has been moved to the September 28th, 2023 agenda by the applicant. And those are all the changes I've received.
Thank you, City Clerk. I'm going to take it over to my colleagues now to see if there's any further changes. We'll go in numerical order, starting with Councilmember Carbasi. Councilmember Chavez.
None.
Councilmember Bredefield.
Yes, I would like to pull item 1T. Want to address some of the concerns that some of the stakeholders have in the community, and once we address that, we'll bring it back for adoption.
You're pulling that for contested?
No, we will just pull it back, address the concerns, and then bring it back to the council later for adoption.
Continuing with no return date at this time.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Esparza.
Yeah, I want to pull item 1K for the contested consent.
Item 1K as in King being pulled by Councilmember Esparza to contested. Anything else, Councilmember?
That'll be it.
All right, Council Vice President Perea.
Yeah, Todd, just want to confirm, you had tabled, or you had noted 1U as being pulled?
I did, yes.
Okay, thank you. Nothing else.
Okay, and I have nothing else, so I believe it's just item 1K. I don't know what to do with myself. This is this is unheard of. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
I have a motion by Perea and a second by Carbasi. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, the item passes 6-0. Okay. All righty, thank you for your patience, everybody. This is the exciting part of today's agenda when we get the opportunity to recognize folks doing good work in our community. We have a couple of ceremonial proclamations for the AM calendar. The first one is a proclamation for National Voter Registration Day, which will be presented by myself. I'm going to ask my friends, Ms. Goldman and County Clerk James Coos, to come join me up at the front at this time. Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? Grab that from me. Well, good morning, everybody. I have some very special guests up here with me today. It's my profound belief that voting is the cornerstone of democracy. We have a population of a little over 500,000 folks here in the city of Fresno, but just barely 250,000 folks registered to vote here in the city of Fresno. We have about another 50,000 folks living just here in the city of Fresno who are eligible to vote but are not registered to vote. So we have our Fresno County Clerk, James Coos, here with us today, who's been doing a phenomenal job the short time that he's been in his office, bringing awareness, letting folks know how to register to vote, making it as easy as possible to get folks to vote. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Peace and Freedom Party, I mean, it really doesn't matter. We just want as many folks to register to vote as possible. And I did a little bit of research last night, too, because we're going to be presenting this proclamation to the League of Women Voters, who I have known about for a very long time, but, you know, ashamed to say, I really didn't know a lot of the history. And, you know, it wasn't until the year 1920 that women were afforded the right to vote through the suffrage movement via the 19th Amendment. 100 years ago. And after they were able to successfully pass that through the suffrage movement, there was an effort to educate and register as many women to vote after they had got the constitutional right to vote. And over time, that organization turned into what we know today as the League of Women Voters, but their scope has increased exponentially over the last 100 years. And their goal now is really just to register as many folks as possible. It's a nonpartisan organization. They do great work across the United States, but especially here in our community. And they've been doing a lot of great work with the youth, too, trying to get folks throughout high school to sign up for automatic registration, which you could do at the ages of 16 and 17 years old, so that when you turn 18, you're automatically registered to vote. You don't have to do any more paperwork. You're ready to vote on day one. So next week, we do have voter registration day. That's next Tuesday. And all of next week is high school registration awareness week. So we got two folks here that are doing really great work in our community, and I want you to hear a little bit from them about some of the work that they're doing. Ms. Goldman, would you like to speak?
Sure. I'm really pleased that the City Council has decided to do that. As was mentioned, we are a nonpartisan organization, and our focus is good government, and we have a major focus on youth registration, education, and engagement. It's one thing to get kids registered to vote, but we need to get them to actually get out there and vote, because I think most of you know that the youth vote is very low. In the last election, it was 23%. So we are in the process of focusing on high school registration right now, and we're really focusing on Fresno Unified right now. So we're going into Hoover, Cambridge, DeWolf. We're working on Bullard, Edison, a few others. And then also in Clovis, Buchanan High School is going to be using our PowerPoint in their government classes. So we're thrilled that this is happening right now.
Thank you. County Clerk.
Thank you, Council President, and all City Council members for having us today and for recognizing the League of Women Voters and all the good efforts that they are doing to register citizens in Fresno County and especially here in Fresno City, with working with our school districts. It is just imperative that we get our youth involved early, because we build those tendencies in youth. And if you begin voting when you turn 18, as you're in college, right after high school, that's going to lead to a lifetime of participation. And that participation is what we really need. It's kind of been a weak point across California for many years, and we need to continue to build that up. And the best way to do that is at our youth level, to get our young folks involved there. I'm very pleased and honored to be working with the League of Women Voters, but we also have our parties out there and other nonprofit organizations, individuals that are out there getting people registered to vote and ready, because there might be a little kind of important election coming up in just a few months here. Starting today, we actually open our registration activities, our candidate filing activities for the 2024 election process, where we might have a few important seats on this dais here, or yeah, we might have a few folks here who might be up and running for some very important local seats. So participation, it's not just about voting for president, but it's being involved in your local community, at the city level, at the county level, at your school districts in the fall. So thank you very much for having us here today, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for all your efforts there.
Yeah, thank you again both very much for the work that you do. Politics is not a spectator sport. We need folks involved. We need folks voting. If you agree or disagree with the folks up here, I mean, it's important to get out and to vote for what you believe in, and these are two folks that are making that a lot easier for everybody here in Fresno County. So with that being said, City Clerk, would you please read the proclamation?
Whereas the National Voter Registration Day is September 19th, 2023, and California High School Voter Education Week is September 18th through September 29th, 2023. And whereas the Fresno County Clerk and California Secretary of State are committed to strengthening democracy by encouraging voter registration and increasing participation in all elections by all eligible Californians. And whereas there are over 260,000 active registered voters in the city of Fresno and up to 50,000 more unregistered but eligible persons within the city. And whereas 16 and 17-year-olds can now pre-register to vote and automatically become active voters when they turn 18. Pre-registration has been shown to increase the likelihood of participation once the pre-registrant turns 18. And whereas young people are instrumental in shaping our democracy through their roles in electing leaders and articulating perspectives on critical issues, they are actively encouraged to partake in democratic processes, including civics education, voter outreach initiatives, serving as students, polling officials, and encouraging their friends, families, and communities to register and vote in elections. And whereas Fresno County Clerk, Registrar of Voters, and the Secretary of State's websites provide information for easy online voter registration for all eligible individuals, as well as the ability to verify one's registration status and information. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Mayor Jerry Dyer, and the Fresno City Council do hereby proclaim the 19th day of September 2023 to be National Voter Registration Day in the city of Fresno.
Alrighty, my second proclamation for this morning, I'm going to invite my friends from the Valley Animal Center to come up and join me at this time. So these ladies right here, they all know that I'm a cat person, and they asked me to do a proclamation for a dog park. But it is really a special dog park that you guys have. It's the 10-year anniversary of having that park, and I've had the opportunity to go out to the Valley Animal Center quite a few times, which really is just an extraordinary nonprofit located in the heart of District 4, where they really try to help as many dogs and cats get homes as possible. But they also have another kind of hidden secret located on their facility too, which is the James W. Thornton Dog Park. And I don't know if anyone's had the opportunity to take their dog out there, but it truly is state-of-the-art park. And I'll let you guys talk a little bit more about what you have out there. But they have a huge space. They have aquatics. They allow all dog breeds, and they really make sure it's as safe as an environment as possible. So they do require spay-neuter vaccinations and to make sure the dogs aren't hostile. And really, if you ever go out there, you just get to see dozens of dogs playing with each other on this huge open space of all different breeds, all different sizes. And it really is a cool thing. And so I was hoping you could tell me a little bit more about the dog park and Valley Animal Center as well.
Yeah, I know. So Valley Animal Center is the largest private no-kill shelter for dogs and cats here in the Central Valley. Valley Animal Center as an organization has been around for, as of now, more than 30 years. But we did have a dog park that was established 10 years ago, and we celebrated our 10-year anniversary on the 7th. We thank Tyler Maxwell for inviting us out here and doing this for us. As he mentioned, it is a dog park, but it is unique in that we advocate for responsible pet ownership, and we ask our dog park members, the canine members, that they be fully vaccinated, they be spayed and neutered, and then to ensure the safety of all the animals, we do require that they pass a quick temperament test, and that's really to ensure that they are friendly with other dogs as well as human beings. If they do not pass, however, we do offer affordable dog training as well, and our dog trainer will work with that individual and that dog just to get them on board. On top of that, we offer canine socials at least once or twice a month, and then our canine members just come out and really just socialize with the other dogs, hang out with the humans. It's so weird saying humans, but they have a great time. This Saturday, we are doing a celebration for our dog park members, and we're just going to provide them, a goodie bag and thanking them. Some of these dog park members have been here, for years. We have one individual who at 6:45 on the dot every single morning, hot or cold, is there to let his dog jump in the pool, because we do have a pool. It's only for dogs. But as Tyler mentioned, we do have separate dog runs. We have a small dog run, a large dog run, and then we have an agility course, as well as a private run, just in case, you know, your dog is experiencing some behavioral issues, or you just kind of want that space to yourself. You're welcome to head to that private run and utilize that area as well. And then on top of that, our biggest hit is the pool. Megan, do you have anything? Thanks for having us. And I'm so sorry, we didn't bring an animal. I read the email too late.
I don't know if the mayor's here, but if Stitch ever gets stuffy in your McMansion, you should bring him out for a run around the park sometime. City Clerk, would you please read the proclamation into the record? Thank you.
Whereas the Valley Animal Center's Dr. James W. Thornton Dog Park is a membership-based dog park where members can bring their dogs to play, socialize, and have fun. And whereas the Dr. James W. Thornton Dog Park officially opened on September 7th, 2013, and this year is celebrating its 10th year anniversary. Today, the park serves dog owners throughout Fresno and offers daily, monthly, and annual memberships. And whereas the Dr. James W. Thornton Dog Park is a no-breed restricted dog park that features amenities such as a 2,000-gallon canine wading pool, an agility course, and a canine-specific grass landscape to optimize the amount of exercise and socialization between canine friends. And whereas all staff at Valley Animal Center take pride in Dr. James W. Thornton Dog Park, as it is regarded as one of the safest dog parks in the Central Valley. The park promotes responsible pet ownership through safety precautions such as requiring up-to-date vaccinations, canines to be spayed or neutered, and a temperament check canine must pass. And whereas the Dr. James W. Thornton Dog Park also serves as a venue to host fundraising events throughout the year to raise funds for the Valley Animal Center operations to best serve the nonprofit organization's mission to unite dogs and cats with loving people. And whereas the Dr. James W. Thornton Dog Park contributes greatly to the Valley Animal Center's vision as a resource for the health and well-being of companion animals. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Mayor Jerry Dyer, and the Fresno City Council do hereby proclaim September 14th, 2023 in the city of Fresno as Dr. James W. Thornton Dog Park Day.
All righty. Our next proclamation for this morning is going to be a proclamation, Captain Anthony Martinez Day, which will be sponsored by Council Member Carbasi and Council Vice President Perea.
So if we could have Captain Martinez and your delegation to join us here. Come on down, don't be shy. You know I'm talking to you, Tim. So Council Vice President Perea and I are really, in a bittersweet way, excited to honor our captain for Northwest Fresno, who has moved on to HQ. I'm going to have you hold this. So let me tell you a little bit about Anthony Martinez. So he first came into law enforcement back in 1990. And I was born then, don't worry. In 1996, he was a lateral hire for the Fresno Police Department. He did rise through the ranks, becoming a sergeant, lieutenant, and then captain. In fact, he became a captain in 2016, but in that time, he also served as a commander in Magic, as the PIO for Mayor Jerry Dyer, as the internal affairs commander and a patrol commander, and now he has been promoted, that's why he left Northwest Fresno, as the community relations commander of the support division. One really great piece of news that we talked about a lot is you just finally did all the hard work and completed your master's in public safety from the University of Virginia. That's a big deal, congratulations. But really it was your time as the captain for Northwest and the experiences you had, especially your engagement with the community that I really think prepares you to represent the chief and the city at all our community engagement events. And I'll tell you why I say this. Fairmont and Holt, which is pretty much catty corner to where the current station is, when I first came on, it was the site of the greatest number of shootings in Fresno. And it was absolutely terrible. And through repeat engagements, first with Captain Farah and then continued heavily with you, that has completely turned around. And it wasn't just officers being there all the time, it was the POP officers, the community service officers, engaging with the property owners and the residents and the kids. That to me is a sign of great accomplishment, and I am so grateful. But also, you were always kind, you were always inclusive of us. When things would happen, you'd let us be involved and know what happens because we're all in this together. And Captain, I am so grateful for your service. I'm going to stop now because I'm just going to babble. I'm going to turn it over to the Vice President. She has a lot of great things to say, too.
Thank you, Council Member. I want to start by making note that this is your second master's degree, right? Okay, I don't even have one, so the fact that you have two is pretty remarkable. But during the time that I've been the council member, I think we served together for 6-7 months as our captain, and the feedback I got from my residents west of the 99 was tremendous when it came to the level of service that your officers provided to the area. And so your contributions while I've been in office, for me personally, have been extremely impactful. So on behalf of my constituents, I want to thank you for your service to the people of Fresno, and looking forward to continue to work with you moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think Mayor Dyer has a few words to say.
So I had the privilege of promoting Anthony a few times and watching his career elevate. And one thing I'll say about Anthony, he is steadfast, he is reliable, he is somebody that is a professional. You can tell by the way he dressed as a former Marine. He continued with that appearance throughout law enforcement. And I think if you ask the police officers, they will tell you that he is a cop's cop. And the fact that he supports the troops, he's there for them, mentoring, encouraging, but he's also very loyal as a leader in the organization. And so I always appreciated that about Anthony. Whenever you gave directions, you had absolutely no doubt that they'd be carried out to the fullest. And so congratulations, Anthony, well deserved. You've done great in every assignment you've held, and I appreciate you and love you.
So I am going to see if I can get one of our officers to tell us some stories about Captain Martinez. It's a voluntary thing. I mean, it's not on the record. Don't worry about the cameras. But if anyone doesn't want to say anything, I'll turn it over to Captain Martinez. You want to say something? Are you sure? He's the best storyteller. Let's hear from the best storyteller. Captain, the floor is yours.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you, Council, everybody for your support. Councilmember Carbasi, Councilmember Perea. That's why I have troops up here with me. I get a little bit nervous with this kind of stuff, mainly because I just don't like getting the recognition myself. I'm kind of one of the leaders that likes to be in the rear with the gear. You know, it's an old Marine Corps line. That's where I like to be. My troops know if they need me, I'll be up front with them. But I really like to see them succeed. I like to see them learn. I like to see them experience. And so when Councilmember Carbasi told me about this, I thought, boy, I gotta have some people up here standing with me. So thank you all for your support. He asked me just to speak a little bit about what I do, or maybe something that I do different. What I've always done as a leader, and I've done this back in the Corps, I've done this in almost 34 years in law enforcement now. Getting to be a little bit of a pool now, boss. I've always taken the time to tell the troops about their why. And it's just a real basic leadership thing. Everyone understands what you're going to go do. If you're going to go pick up a hobby, you're going to get a job, whatever you're going to go do, you understand what you're going to get yourself involved in. And when you get that job, then there's formal and informal ways that you learn how to do it. It's either an FTO, or maybe your mentors that you look to, or maybe the things you're just doing right and wrong. And then you figure out, oh, okay, this makes this easier, this makes this better. So you figured out the what, and you're learning the how. But until someone pulls you aside, a friend, a mentor, a leader, family at home, until someone gives you your why, you don't really have it all. And once you get your why, I got there, it wasn't very good. And we had a lot of problems, and my troops used to talk about stringing up yellow crime scene tape every other week. And I told them that's just not acceptable. We're going to approach this from a lot of sides. We're going to work with the community. I want my officers out there 24/7. There was always a black and white on Fairmont and Holt. And then all of a sudden we quit stringing yellow crime scene tape, and some of that stuff began to go away and begin to change. And finally, last summer, one of my troops came up to me on day shift, and he says, hey, new people must have moved into Fairmont and Holt because they were waving at us. They weren't upset with us. And I said, well, those aren't new people. It's the same people. But those are the good people that were scared and inside their residences, and they weren't coming outside. And so now you're seeing that. And so it's just been a little bit different. And I don't want to mess us up. I don't want to jinx us. But the last shooting of a person, a structure, or a vehicle was December 9th of last year at Fairmont and Holt. And so from a place that had crime scene tape every other week to now going that kind of distance, that's the stuff that all of these guys have done. That's all the heavy lifting that they've done. And so they figured out their why and why we needed to help Fairmont and Holt. So thank you. Thanks for your time. Thank you for the recognition.
Thank you. So we're going to have DC Mindy Castro. She's going to tell us a story now.
No stories, no stories. Just to reiterate what the mayor said, Captain Martinez is new to my division, and he's been nothing but exactly how Mayor Dyer described him. We're always, every day is chaos and some other problem to solve, and Captain Martinez has been right on top of it, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the faith I have in him. It feels good to trust him, and if you have a problem and need solving, you give it to Captain Martinez and it'll be done. So thank you. I appreciate you, and I know your troops do as well. So thanks again.
Thank you, and thank you, Council, for being up here. Clerk, if you wouldn't mind reading the proclamation into the record.
Whereas Captain Anthony Martinez started his career in law enforcement with the Selma Police Department in 1990 and lateraled to the Fresno Police Department in July of 1996. He worked a variety of assignments, including as a problem-oriented policing officer and a narcotics detective. In October of 2001, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant. Captain Martinez then worked as a supervisor in patrol, supervised a problem-oriented policing team, and was assigned as an internal affairs investigator. And whereas, in March of 2006, Captain Martinez was promoted to the rank of lieutenant and served as the multi-agency gang enforcement consortium, MAGIC, Metro Commander, and served as an acting captain Southwest District Commander, Internal Affairs Commander, Public Information Officer, and Patrol Commander. In October of 2016, Captain Martinez was promoted to the rank of captain. And whereas, currently, Captain Martinez is the Support Division's Community Relations Commander, representing the Chief of Police at both city government and community meetings after previously serving as both the Southeast and Northwest District Commander. Captain Martinez has an outstanding ability to connect and build relationships of trust with members of our community. His compassion, love for the community, and hard work have made him one of the most successful captains at the Fresno Police Department. And whereas Captain Martinez has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Public Administration, a minor in Criminology, and a Master of Arts degree in Public Administration from California State University, Fresno. In June 2022, Anthony attended and graduated from the FBI National Academy. In June 2023, he was awarded one of the first ever Lexipol Public Safety Fellowships by Renee and Gordon Graham. Also in June 2023, Captain Martinez was awarded lifetime membership in Lions Club International for more than 25 years of dedicated community service through Lions Club International. In August 2023, Captain Martinez was awarded a Master of Public Safety degree from the University of Virginia. And whereas Captain Martinez has been married for 39 years to the love of his life and best friend, Sandy. They have 2 daughters, Tony and Tressa, and have been blessed with 3 grandchildren, Colton, Catalina, and Billy Ray. And whereas we thank Captain Martinez for his devoted service to Northwest Fresno, and we look forward to continuing to have him serve our Fresno Police Force. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Mayor Jerry Dyer, and the Fresno City Council recognize the sacrifices and decades of service to the city of Fresno, and do hereby honor Captain Anthony Martinez.
So I always say I'm a big Columbo fan. Just one more thing. I don't want you to get in trouble, so we should introduce your family, right? Would you do that for us?
My daughters are here, Tony and Teresa, and my wife of 39 years, Sandy Martinez.
You almost got in trouble there. Thank you so much for letting us borrow him for so long. Thank you.
Our last ceremonial proclamation for the morning will be a proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month, which is being sponsored by Council Vice President Perea.
All right, so I'm going to ask the Consul Adriana is up here, Deputy Consul Nuria Zuniga. And do we have the Consul from El Salvador with us? No? Okay. Okay, got it. Well, buenos días y gracias por estar aquí. See, I'm practicing my Spanish. I told you I would. It's truly an honor for me to be here today to recognize Hispanic Heritage Month. For those who don't know, I'm sure most people know, but our city is comprised of more than 50% Latinos. And so what this month means for us is we get the opportunity to take pause and recognize the contributions that the Latino and Hispanic communities have provided to our great city. Whether it is in the fields of education or medicine or from the fields all the way here to the government buildings. The contributions, the achievements have just been tremendous, and not that we need a reason for a fiesta, but this month is especially important for us to really just highlight everything that these communities mean to our great city. It's been an honor to get to know you both on a personal level, and I see the work every day that you guys do for the people, whether it's the LGBTQ community or other underrepresented groups. You know, your contributions personally have just made a lasting impact to our city. So it's my honor to be here today, and before I hand the mic over to the mayor, I just want to invite everyone to the 213th anniversary of Mexico's Independence Day. We're going to be doing a flag-raising ceremony this Friday at City Hall at 11 a.m. out front. So, Mayor, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Council Vice President. Yeah, briefly, it's always an honor to be able to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month as well as Mexico's independence, and look forward to doing that tomorrow. This morning, we were able to raise the flag from El Salvador and recognize them as well. And folks came to America for a better way of life, whether it's from Mexico or Nicaragua or Guatemala or El Salvador, for a better way of life. And originally, you know, we know folks came here for to work in the farms and to feed America. But today we look around and we see doctors and lawyers and astronauts and so many others and council members and that we have here today. And so I thank God that that folks from Mexico came to the United States, or I wouldn't be married today to my beautiful wife, Diane Gonzalez. So it's my honor to be able to participate both today, tomorrow, and tomorrow evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Annalisa. And thank you, everyone. Good morning. The Consulate of Mexico is grateful to the City of Fresno Council for the approval of the proclamation to recognize Hispanic Heritage Month, particularly to VP Perea, who promote the resolution, and to all council members for the approval. It is very important to celebrate our shared history, but it is more important to build together a prosperous, diverse, and inclusive future. The contributions of the Hispanic communities to Fresno, the Central Valley, and California are several. For 92 years, the Consulate of Mexico has been a faithful witness of those contributions in all areas, but mainly in the agriculture. The success of the Central Valley cannot be understood without the hard journeys of farm workers, packers, or dairy workers, those who process our food or are related to the agricultural services. They are the base of California's prosperity and work daily to help this state to continue the fifth economy of the world, and Fresno, the fifth most important city in this golden state. To the Consulate of Mexico, it's an honor to be part of the Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations in Fresno, the home of thousands of Hispanic families whose daily work to help creating one Fresno for everybody. Nuria, do you want to say some few words?
Thank you very much, Mayor VP Perea. Thank you, all the council members, for this proclamation. And as VP Perea mentioned, we hope that you can join us tomorrow on the flag raising to celebrate Mexico, but also to celebrate all the Hispanic community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, clerk, will you please read the proclamation into the record?
Whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is a national celebration held annually from September 15th to October 15th, where we recognize and celebrate the history, culture, and contributions made by Hispanic and Latino Americans in the United States. And whereas the commencement date of September 15th is significant because it marks the anniversary of independence for Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, followed by independence of Mexico on September 16th, the independence of Chile on September 18th, and the independence of Belize on September 21st. And whereas the city of Fresno takes great pride in its rich diversity of cultures and the contributions made by its residents in shaping our history and strengthening our future. And whereas our American Latino community have made significant contributions to the United States and play an important role in the cultural, economic, and social fabric of the city of Fresno and Central California. Whereas Latinos are a majority of the city of Fresno's population and comprise over 50% of the population in Fresno County. And the city of Fresno is home to several Hispanic-serving institutions of higher education, including California State University Fresno, Fresno Pacific University, and the State Center Community College District. And whereas our Hispanic and Latinos of all generations and recent immigrants continue to make great contributions and have profound influence throughout their strong commitment to family, faith, hard work, and service. We appreciate the partnership of the Consulate of Mexico in Fresno, California, as they work tirelessly to ensure that Mexican citizens and children of Mexican citizens have the resources necessary to improve their quality of life in our great city of Fresno and surrounding areas. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Council Vice President Annalisa Perea, Mayor Jerry Dyer, and the Fresno City Council members do hereby recognize September 15th through October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Alrighty, we're going to move on to council member reports and comments at this time. Councilmember Carbasi, would you like to kick us off?
I will. Consul, I was just talking to the city manager, and over here. You are a ray of sunshine every time we see you. You're just so positive. I do want to state just a couple of updates. First of all, Council, thank you for coming up when Captain Martinez was here. It was really touching to me. I really do appreciate that support. We did have a swearing in for new Fresno police officers and support staff. I have never seen, I think it was 34 new officers. I've never seen that many in my time here. And that really means a lot to me because one of my campaign pledges was that we would increase safety in our community and we would increase those numbers. And I want to thank the administration and my colleagues for all the work we've done together to do that and keep that pledge. Speaking of safety, when I first started, there was a critical incident at the Milburn Overlook, which overlooks the San Joaquin River in northwest Fresno, off of Milburn and Herndon. But I'm happy to announce that so many years later, instead of talking about a tragedy, we're talking about something positive. I want to thank the Parks Department because we were able last year in the budget to bring some money back into northwest Fresno, and we're going to have a major redesign of that overlook. And we had our first community meeting to talk about the redesign, to make sure it's something that the neighborhood can actually start using again, and also something that can attract people from all over the city to enjoy the river. So thank you to Parks for that. I also want to thank Fresno Unified and trustee Susan Wittrup for inviting me to participate in the Fresno Unified School District Community Health and Literacy event. This was for the Bullard region, and it was at my alma mater, Tenaya Middle School. It was interesting being back there and just watching the parents, and it wasn't just the Bullard region, they were from all over, but with the kids with their parents or grandparents or whoever their guardians were, talk about literacy, but also get exposed to different services we have in our community and talk about health for kids and families. And lastly, do want to thank Boy Scout Troop 199 for inviting me to speak with them and help them earn their merit badge. That was pretty neat. And also, we have a very special celebration worldwide, and I want to say starting Friday evening is Rosh Hashanah for my Jewish brothers and sisters, Shana Tova. May you have a good and sweet new year. And that's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Council President. I also want to wish our Jewish brothers and sisters Rosh Hashanah starts this Friday evening, so I want to wish them a prosperous and a good new year. I believe it's one of the holiest days in Judaism. Also, I want to thank our Neighborhood Watch program folks. We had a community meeting out on Huntington and 10th. It was only 99 degrees that day. I want to thank our police department for showing up. We had our SRO folks there. It was very helpful, answered a lot of questions. We had folks there from also the homeless task force. She was amazing, by the way, so a lot of the residents got a lot of great information, very helpful, and I think it actually helps them turn in stuff, not just on Fresno, but directly to folks that can address them in a more quicker manner. Also want to thank our public works folks for the Calawa sidewalk, finally completed. We now have sidewalks on the side of the park there, and folks with wheelchairs, folks with scooters, folks that have mobility issues now have ADA accessible sidewalks. I want to thank our public works force. I know they had to do a little bit of creative work on there. And with that, that will conclude my comments, Council President.
Thank you. Councilmember Bredefeld. Councilmember Esparza.
Yeah, thanks, Council Presidents. You know, a couple weeks ago, I had the privilege of also attending the swearing in of our new officers and staff. I do attend those often, and it's a good thing we are doing it often because we are getting closer and closer to meeting our goals in terms of staffing within the police department. So, you know, always a pleasure to be there and celebration as we swear in you folks and add to the ranks. Also would like to thank residents down in the Armstrong and Shields neighborhood for the little neighborhood meeting we put together. Great to hear from them on some of the infrastructure issues that we are having out there, and continue to work with them to ensure that their neighborhoods are invested in. And lastly, as we heard at the last council meeting, but we're coming up much closer to it, do not forget about Greek Fest. This is happening this weekend, beginning tomorrow. Over at St. George Greek Orthodox Church in D7. So it'll be a great time, great celebration. Look forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you. Council Vice President Perea.
Thank you, Council President. It's been a busy few weeks for District 1. I'll start by just making note that we attended the Proteus Farm Workers Appreciation Lunch. This was an event where we had the opportunity to honor a farm worker and an organization for their advocacy work and contributions to the field of agriculture. We also attended the Central Unified and Central Foundation grand opening of the new food pantry. This was at Teague Elementary School. So the food pantry will now allow our Central Unified students to serve even more community members on a regular basis. Special thanks to our Parks team for holding yet another senior meeting in District 1. This is where we were able to continuously just obtain more feedback from our seniors in regards to what they want their senior center to look like and the programs that they want offered at the senior center. Additionally, in partnership with D3 Councilmember Arias, we held a press conference recently to discuss a lot of the Tower District accomplishments we've recently had. So from facade improvement programs to the new pressure washing team, you know, we see a lot of great momentum in the Tower District, but we recognize we still have a lot of work to do down there. So your two council members that represent the area remain committed to
seeing through continued progress down in the tower. We kicked off Labor Day weekend with the iron workers. We did a District 1 alleyway cleanup, so just a special shout out to the iron workers and to the neighbors that came out to help us clean up those alleyways. I also had the privilege to tour the American Ambulance Dispatch Center recently. So this gave us a first-hand perspective on the hard work that our dispatchers face on a daily basis when it comes to answering those emergency calls. It's definitely not easy, and their continued hard work is very much appreciated. And lastly, I will just make note that we did have a recent senior town hall meeting at the Westlake Mobile Home Park. So I want to thank our Parks Department, our Community Service Officer, as well as the code team for providing valuable information to our senior community. Council President, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Council Vice President. I have just a few updates before we hand it over to public comment. I had the honor this last Saturday of not just watching our Bulldogs get their second win of the season, but also attending the game and presenting a proclamation to our Fresno State Marching Band. We know that our Bulldogs are the best in the Mountain West, but you don't... everyone loves the Bulldogs. But you can't have a good football team without a good marching band that has your back. And so I was proud to go out into the field at halftime and present the proclamation to our marching band, who is also the best in the Mountain West. On September 1st, I had the opportunity of attending the Hyatt House groundbreaking at Campus Point. If you've been to Campus Point, you know they have some of the best restaurants, bars, cafes in town, not to mention movie theater and other entertainment. It's a 5-minute walk from the Fresno State campus, and they are currently in the process of building a 138 room hotel there, which will feature studios and suites with full kitchens. It'll have a large conference center, outdoor pool, a bar, and a dining area. This is going to be huge for folks that come throughout the Central Valley to drop their kids off at Fresno State or to pick them up, or folks that are coming to a home game to watch our Fresno State Bulldogs dominate another season. They are able to have a long, comfortable stay. We anticipate this will be completed in 2025. Every month, my team recognizes a different small business in District 4 to receive our Business of the Month award. This past month, we were honored to present that to Cafe Leon, which is on the northwest corner of Blackstone and Ashland. We got to surprise Saul Gonzalez, who is the new owner of that restaurant. He serves up cuisine from Leon, Guanajuato. Hopefully I said that right, or else my staff will kill me. Really delicious food. If you haven't checked it out yet, they really do have some of the best Mexican food in town. Last week, Council Vice President Perea and I launched our Business Facade Program, where businesses in the Tower District and the Airport District will be eligible for grants from $25,000 to $50,000 to improve the facade of their business, to touch it up, make it look real nice. And so if you're interested in applying to that, please visit FresnoAHF.org, the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation. And lastly, I want to welcome our newest intern, Marco Flores. He is a Maddie intern. He'll be joining us for this semester. We know that when we get a Maddie intern, they're always the best and the brightest. And so really looking forward to working with our new intern. And that'll conclude my remarks for this morning. I'll hand it over to the mayor at this time. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Morning, Council President. Just briefly, 3 quick items. One is, had the opportunity to attend the September 11th ceremony this last week at the old Pelco building. And for those that haven't gone out there to see all of the improvements, it puts you in awe of the statues and the bronze statues and the Twin Towers. But it was an incredible ceremony. And they had an individual, Will Jimeno, who was a New York Port Authority police officer, and he was one of those who was trapped in one of the towers, actually made a movie about it, and 220 stories that had fallen, and he was trapped underneath by the elevator for over 13 hours. And he told that story, and just to think about how many people did not make it out, 20 did make it out, the rest of them died. And so just a sad reminder of the September 11th Second, on a more positive note, I had an opportunity to host a roundtable co-host with the Attorney General, Abanta, this week on hate crimes. And it was well attended, and there was a lot of information shared, some painful information shared, but I thought it was a very, very good event and well attended with good outcomes. And then lastly, this Saturday will be World Cleanup Day. Beautify Fresno will be participating in that, in specifically at least 3 different areas, one in the Hidalgo neighborhood, one on Kings Canyon, Ventura, and then another one at JSK Park in Northwest Fresno. So if people are still interested in participating, they can go to beautifyfresno.org and get involved this weekend.
Thank you for that plug, Mayor. City Manager, any comments or reports?
Yeah, just a few things I want to bring to your attention that went out since our last meeting. Did provide you an update on the processing of delinquent utility accounts. We also sent out a pretty thick tray memo and report on the traffic assessment, which is in response to the 2 resolutions that council passed regarding safety at intersections. So I want to make sure that you all saw that went out at the beginning of the month. And then to echo, of course, what Councilmember Esparza said, hope to see you all at Greek Fest this weekend. I will be there working behind the cash register, ringing people up for food. So look forward to seeing you all. Thank you.
You'll be taking a lot of my money, City Manager. City Clerk, any reports or comments?
Just a reminder, we did have a proclamation for voter registration. Voter registration for the March 5th election, the deadline is February 20th, 2024. So make sure your voter registration is postmarked by then. You can also go to the Secretary of State's website and get signed up to vote there. That's all I have.
Thank you. City Attorney?
We have no response.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take it out to the public at this time. Anybody that wishes to speak on consent, including contested consent, unscheduled communication, or a closed session will have the opportunity to do so now. You will have 3 minutes. If you'd like to speak but haven't filled out a yellow card yet, please make sure you do so now. I will call them in the order I receive them, and then we'll move on to electronic communication afterwards. When the yellow light goes off, you have 1 minute. When the red light goes off, I'll give you a courtesy 5 seconds. The first person that we have in the chambers today is Dallas Blanchard. Dallas, good morning.
Yes, my name is Dallas Blanchard. I'm the director of the Fresno Needle Exchange Program. And with the recent news about the Needle Exchange Program, I thought I'd come in, clear up some misconceptions. The first one of the council members during the press conference said there's no evidence of the effectiveness or benefits of needle exchange. A quick Google search of needle exchange frequently asked questions has a Centers for Disease Control fact sheet that lists 23 studies from 99 through 2017, all listing the benefits of syringe exchange. Fresno is mentioned in some of those studies. There's 2 studies that were specifically based out of Fresno. Before making inflammatory statements and calling out the DA, a leader should reach out and talk to and or visit the program they're speaking about. Gary Bredefeld did that, and the district attorney did that. We didn't change their minds, but the district attorney did come to the conclusion that we are legal, that we have state backing. And if people had visited the program, they would know that we have 2 doctors, 2 substance use navigators, a nurse, a community health outreach worker, all offering a wide range of harm reduction services, including on-site drug treatment. And that's every Saturday. And we have people taking us up on the drug treatment. The needle exchange is not some wild idea out of San Francisco or Los Angeles. There are 402 programs across the United States in 45 different states, all of them legal. There's 3 programs in Bakersfield. There's one in Kings County run by the Kings County Department of Public Health. There's one, well, obviously in Fresno. There's one in Modesto and Stockton. As to tax money, the next 4 years, opiate settlement dollars will be funding programs throughout the state of California without any tax dollars. And in conclusion, 4 years ago, I was walking to the corner store in the Tower District, and an officer called out to me and said, "Hey, Dallas, you run the Needle Exchange, right?" And I go, "Yeah." Said, "We recently had someone overdose at Starbucks, and the person they were with gave them Narcan that we provided them. The person survived. We saved lives, and we saved millions of dollars." Thank you.
Next in the chambers, we have Ed Mason. Ed, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Ed Mason. I own Bowers Auto Wrecking Towing in Fresno, and I'm here to talk about the ID 23-1297 to the municipal code. I wasn't able to be here a couple weeks ago because I had COVID. But there's some changes in here that I don't think needs to be more discussed before it's passed. A couple of them are the fact that Fresno PD tow unit does not talk to the tow unit, the towers, about these changes. They've done it in the darkness of the night this time, and they're going to affect the towers quite a bit. They say they need to expand the tow list, but when Andy Hall was in charge, he wanted to lower the tow list. They put themselves in a predicament because they do not communicate with the towers that well. They don't have meetings with the towers on an annual basis, like when Andy Hall was in charge. Some of the stuff could have been resolved. There's a section in here about not being able to appeal. I'm involved in an appeal right now. I haven't towed for the city of Fresno for close to 3 years now. That's how long the appeal process takes. The city of Fresno has lost every time. They've paid me a lot of money. You guys don't know how much money I've collected in attorney fees because of the stubbornness of certain few people at the tow unit. We're in a problem area right now because after they've lost, there's some people down there that don't like losing, and now they're running the planning department now, and that needs to be changed too. There's a lot of problems that need to be worked out, and it would be communication, not just coming here and passing this stuff in the middle of the night. I guess that's my time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next in the chambers, we have Steve Diddy.
So it's well established that I'm a political animal. That's why I've spoken here almost every council session since about, November, December, almost everyone. Anyways, I want to make some more political endorsements for next year since we have an election year. Very auspicious year. And since I think Donald Trump needs a little humility in his life and to scale back his aspirations, I would encourage Donald Trump to run for mayor of Fresno. Now, I don't know him very well, just from tweets and seeing him on the news, and almost ran into him in downtown LA once. As far as mayor of Fresno, not mayor of Fresno, I just said that. That's a Freudian slip. As far as president of the United States, I would like to endorse a local chiropractor by the name of Dr. Gary Ham. I know him very well. I worked with him as an independent contractor. Do I have some time left? I don't get paid to be a political consultant, by the way. 2 minutes. I don't get paid to be a rapper either. Do I have time to read my first rap verse I've ever written? 2 minutes? Okay. It's called Be Your Label. My rap name currently is Uzi Drive-By Diddy. Rolling down the road in our scant Fresno limo. I'm white ice, I melt in your 3 orifices. He's dark chocolate, he'll melt into your source. He'll turn you into a narcoleptic who is laughing and crying in the hood. Haha, that's right. And slap nasty for you, boom. I'm Dr. Diddy in your waiting room. And no enemy of the ultimate homeboy car. He's neutral on the premier cracker transport. Bear with me with this. I haven't actually read this straight through and gotten the syncopation, the rhythm down and everything. Sociopaths killing kings. That's the name of the game, I guess. Doesn't rhyme. Coming to you from the Central Valley rap verse, and watch out, you might just hear us curse. Here comes that Asian boy in his magnificent modmobile. You know his not riding a Vespa or eating some veal. There's more, but I don't want to belabor them. I'm not getting paid to be a rapper either. Thank you.
I look forward to hearing the rest next council meeting. Brixton Lane. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, council members. I want to take this moment to briefly introduce myself. I'm Brixton Lane, the Deputy Director of Constituent Services for Congressman Tom McClintock. Now, Congressman McClintock has represented parts of Fresno County for over a decade now, but after redistricting earlier this year, the congressman ran for a district that included parts of North Fresno. And as a Sanger native, I'm proud to be able to work in Fresno County for the congressman. Now, our office can provide constituent services to your constituents, particularly with federal agencies such as the IRS or Social Security, and our office would be happy to help the council out with any federal agencies they might need help with. Now, currently, the congressman is back in Washington, D.C. after a busy district period for August recess, which included the congressman spending several days in Fresno meeting with local community stakeholders and businesses. And I just wanted to briefly close and say that if there's anything that our office can help you or your constituents with, to please reach out to me and to our office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. I appreciate that. Next in the chambers, we have Fernando Paul Elizondo. Good morning, Fernando.
Good morning. Is this legal? Peace be with you. The Lord is my strength and my defense. Today, I'm here to share with you an experience that with the needle exchange. Have any of you ever gone out there and seen what's really going on? Probably not. You? Well, that's great. Did you notice that they're not just giving out needles? They're giving out pipes. Now, what does a pipe have to do with any disease? Nothing. They're enabling these people. I took a survey. Most of those people that are there are people of color. This, I look at it as a genociding, a way to genocide legally, okay? I don't believe that we should be paying our taxes for something of this nature. I would rather see these people go to a program. My son went to a program and it works. So I am totally against this council paying and backing up these people. Anyway, the other issue is the lab. I used to work in a lab for research and development. This lab, you guys are passing the buck. Remember, the lab was here first. The red flag would have gone up in my book when they all are nothing but Chinese people. Nobody caught that. Nobody looked at that. They ignored it. All you guys saw was dollar bills, a permit, and that's not right. You got to do the research. Those labs are biological warfare. That's what that is. And that's why we have so many people today with sickness. And that was a fast 2 minutes. I guess I'm on the short clock. The other one is, the last is, I'm here to ask the city council, why hasn't Lieutenant Jose Morales given a proclamation? He was in the department for 30 years. And here you give a proclamation for people with dogs and all this stuff. Why is that? I'm asking any of you to have the courage to give a proclamation. It's well-deserved, and he was well-liked. And he's going to have an anniversary next month, in November, of his death, which is unsolved. Anyway, subliminal message. Jerry Dyer, I wonder where you're at, but
Thank you very much,
I'll be
Mr.
watching.
Elizondo. We're going to move on to the next speaker this morning, which is David Willis. Good morning. Yes, come on up, Mr. Willis. Thank you.
Let's see. Okay. Yes, okay. My name is David Willis. Yes, okay. I've been here before. I've lived at 104 East Sierra Avenue, Space 41, since July of 1999. Is that a quarter of a century? Yeah, I think so. It was Trails and Mobile Home Park then. Now it's called La Hacienda Mobile Estates, and it is owned by a ruthless corporation named Harmony Corporation. Now, this corporation did not reveal to the city of Fresno their intentions of closing this mobile home park down in 12 months. Now, I'm a business law guy, I'm on 101, and I remember that it stated there that any misleading or deceit in a contract constitutes a breach and thereby voids the contract. I don't know. So give Harmony their $1.7 million back, shut him down like you did George Santikian when you revoked his license to operate trails, and buy the park back, let Caritas manage it, or ultimately buy it from you, and put a feather in your hat. Fresno City, what a legacy. I mean, that's beautiful, okay? Currently, 29 people have been evicted from a 60-resident operation, leaving 31 people hanging by a string. We have disabled people here, and now they're homeless. Bicycle repairman Dave, the veteran, now sleeping under the bushes across the street. Man, it's heartbreaking. Disabled people, veterans. Damn, I'm sorry. Whew. Elderly people on survival's last leg. Sharon Smith, 78. I'm 79. I mean, I'm pretty healthy for my age, thank God. We have elderly people on survival's last leg. It's nonstop homelessness. I mean, buy it back for $1.7 million. Stop these tyrants. You have the power. Do it now. Now give them back their $1.7 million and shut down this homeless machine, Harmony. Let Caritas, 949-727-0568, manage it. Here he is, right here. Okay. Did I leave this here? No, can't? Okay. Thank you very much, City Council. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
for
Mr.
the
Willis.
time, sir.
Appreciate you. Next in the chambers, we have Leticia. Good morning, Leticia.
Good morning, City Council members. I am Leticia. I'm with California Rural Legal Assistance, here to ask you today to intervene in this sale of the mobile home park and prevent evictions in this area. Recently, there have been, Harmony is trying to attempt more evictions, and as you know, and as I've stated before, affordable housing, right, keyword. Harmony is just kicking people out into the streets, and there definitely needs some intervention. And hopefully we can talk about this more during the October 5th hearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leticia. Arnold Miner. Good morning, Arnold.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning. Please make sure you're speaking into the microphone for us, Mr. Miner.
How you
Thank
doing?
you, sir.
Yeah, I want to comment on that really about the rats and stuff. We don't know what they already have done before they got busted. If we was in China, they'd probably cut our throat and make us tell them everything. You know, they should have been a deeper investigation of what was really going on and what they did. The rats that was there, they could have been infected already. They could have spread them out in communities, you know, and the rats could spread the disease. That's all about that. But y'all should really looking at a lot deeper. And, you know, I'm homeless. I got a Section 8 voucher, but I ain't got no transportation to go nowhere. The villa, that's the place that I'm, you know, I'm waiting, that I, you know, on Parkway. And I keep trying to ask them to give me a ride. I got a wheelchair, but I couldn't get out the car. But they very hesitant to try to help me to get somewhere, you know. And I got to struggle and walk down the street with no kind of assistance or nothing. I appreciate y'all looking into both those matters. Thank you very much, man.
Next in the chambers is Cindy. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Council. The first thing I want to address is the $300,000 going to Gracebound for their mobile showers. I have many times tried to get some people over to some locations. We have only one shower. They are being funded, I believe, about $300,000 a year for that. So I am against, it is a no to give them the $300,000. In fact, they should have about $92,000 left for the non-operational use of the second mobile shower. That is a concern. Also, Arnold, who just spoke, I don't know if the agencies or if the PAW provides transportation for disabled when they're in these shelters. This is a perfect case of someone getting a voucher, on the verge of getting permanent housing, and he needs transportation. And us advocates can't do it at all. We try. Also, I'd like to address the needle exchange. I wish about 35 years ago they had that, and my brother would still be alive. He did share a needle out on the streets of Fresno, and he ended up passing from HIV. So I'm all for the needle exchange. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. That'll conclude remarks from folks in the chamber today. City Clerk, can you take us to electronic communication?
Yes, we have Lisa Flores.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Lisa, we can hear you.
Okay, you know that cough I just had? It started August 30th when I walked out to get my mail, bright and early Wednesday morning before dog park, when your grinders showed up for this bicycle project, and there was tons of fugitive dust. I didn't notice the dust had made it that far to my front porch. I have been asking now for over 16 days, what is in the dust? I need to know if the grindings contain asbestos, lead, or what, or glass. Your contractor, because I did do my due diligence and called the contractor, they said it was dirt, you know, like just dirt. I reminded your contractor that if it was just dirt, there wouldn't have been a grinder. You could power wash striping off the road. No one from the city has contacted me in regards to my health, my welfare, or well-being. Ms. Perea, you should really be ashamed of yourself in this project. On behalf of my neighborhood, I've contacted Ms. Pereira's office every single day. We need help. We need discussions. No one came to our neighborhood and told us how devastating the parking issue would be. Right now, we have a LGBT elder of advanced age who, according to Ms. Pereira, can walk a block in his walker with arthritic knees and a bad heart in the weather, and God help him if he trips and falls and breaks a bone and ends up dead. But yet, no one from the city will sit down with the neighborhood. We are all concerned about Mr. Haney. Mr. Haney is a 25-year resident. Me and him moved in the same month here on Washon. We are the longest residents on this block. We can tell you so much about this intersection, that we can tell you that the design of this intersection is done wrong. Right now, we're seeing cars run through your chevron striping to make right turns. I've only seen, since this project has started, 3 bicyclists use the bicycle lane. No, actually, they're not using the bicycle lanes. They're using the gutters. You know, we would like to resolve this at the lowest issue. We would really like, excuse me, I'm sick. We would really like to resolve this at the lowest level possible. Mr. Haney has said, we'll open up our garages, everybody can walk across the street over to our house, and we can sit down with you guys, as long as you bring chairs, because we don't have any, and talk about this and resolve this and look at how to do mitigation. But no one from the city wants to do that.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Real quick, City Clerk, I think
Sure.
we...
Do you have a couple minutes? Okay. City Attorney, I have a couple follow-up questions. For this project specifically, did the city provide public noticing to the residents that were near this project?
Yes, as far as our office is aware, all required notices have been provided.
Okay, thank you. Is the city in compliance with the ADA requirements for the Washon Bike Lane project?
We have been informed that staff is performing in accordance with ADA.
Thank you. And lastly, did the city conduct business in accordance with CEQA guidelines?
Yes, we have been informed that CEQA is being followed.
Okay, great, thank you. I just want to take time to thank the Public Works Department, to thank the District 1 staff, to thank the City Attorney's Office, and the countless other departments that have taken the time over the last couple weeks to provide this constituent with extensive information. I understand there's still some information that you guys are collecting to give to her, and so just want to express my gratitude for the continued support to this particular constituent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for putting that on the record, Council Vice President, City Clerk. Any other folks electronically?
Yes, next we have is Des Martinez.
Okay, good morning, Des.
Can you hear me?
I could hear you.
Okay, thank you. My concerns today are that we are only focusing on temporary solutions here in Fresno, California. I feel this is a major part of why we have 50% more unhoused since 2019. Homelessness in Fresno has been on the rise, which led me to research data myself. I'm far from happy with my city for what I have seen and what I have not been able to find. $17 million by the state of California for encampment resolution funds. $17 million, that's a lot of money. That is just going to be given away today for one location here in Fresno, California. We just received funds last year for the same area, $5 million, for, again, the same area. This is encampment resolution funds, meaning to help permanently house the unhoused in one certain camp. The mayor allowed $17 million to be accepted from the state of California for encampment resolution funds. He gloated in June this year about the $17 million that we just received in 2023 at a press conference. He told the community about how this is going to help the unhoused community. Well, let's talk about what they spent that money on. From the city report that was given, the money was spent on 26 street lamps to put up in a specific downtown area. And the rest of it went to some tiny home location in southeast Fresno. $5 million and all we get is 26 lampposts and the rest of the money forwarded to some 26 tiny homes somewhere in Southeast out of the jurisdiction of where this encampment resolution fund is supposed to be. These funds could have been used for rapid rehousing, rental subsidies, security deposit, incentives to landlords to rent to the voucher programs, holding fees for housing, application fees for housing, job trust, et cetera, et cetera. Shall I go on about how the $5 million could have been spent for permanent solutions? And yet we're going to spend another $17 million on the same area with no permanent solution. $17 million used for the whole area of Fresno could have been done, but the application stated you can only use it for one encampment in your city with 50 people or more. I do believe we have several media interviews over the years where the mayor stated we do not have any camps in Fresno with 10 people or more. So I'm a little confused if this is a violation. These types of political decisions have contributed to the homelessness and affordable housing problem that we have today in Fresno, California. I would like somebody from the city to email a map location of these 26 lampposts and how much we paid for these 26 lampposts out of the $5 million of the encampment resolution funds. Many of us are moving up north because of the new housing and the new shelter up there. This could have helped with up there too, housing people into permanent solutions, but yet we're only using it for the downtown area and street lamps. I would also like to be invited to the hate crime roundtable discussion because we have a team of men out here attacking the unhoused homeless people by taking their property and threatening to arrest them because they have no home. This is definitely a hate crime. It only happens to people with no home.
Thank you very much, Des.
Thank you, Des. Next, we have Brandy.
Thank you. Good time because I want to piggyback off that one with one eye. I'm very grateful for the food program for the seniors. We had numerous of our unhoused seniors have gone to Ted C. Wills and other places to use this, so thank you for that. I agree on one. I want to address 1K, the 38,000 for outreach. And note that if you are investing that much, we want to get results. There is in the report they'll mention how many people are reached out, but without having a place for people to go, we are not. They are getting people's names down, but they're not going anywhere. And I know that's frustrating for people who are doing outreach, and we do need permanent solutions. Last week, I met a woman who was assaulted and was limping around, but she said, "Well, the Hope team came, so hopefully I'll get into shelter." But I've talked to someone earlier this summer who said, my name is down, we'll be getting into shelter, and people from months before, and a man from 2021 who didn't get shelter during Project Off-Ramp and said he is still waiting to get into some. And also because of the Heart Team's treatment, they're refusing to give them their phones and their paperwork, they're losing that, and that is keeping the outreach efforts from being effective. So please address that so that this funding can actually be effective. I want to support what Del said regarding the syringe services program and the needle exchange. The CDC says nearly 30 years of research has shown that comprehensive SSPs, syringe service programs, are safe, effective, cost-saving, do not increase illegal drug use or crime, and play an important role in reducing the transmission of viral hepatitis, HIV, and other infections. Research shows that new users of SSPs are 5 times more likely to enter a drug treatment and about 3 times more likely to using drugs than those who don't use these programs. SSPs provide naloxone and also help to decrease opioid overdose death. P protects public and first responders by facilitating the safe disposal of used needles and syringes and preventing accidental needle sticks of first responders. The city's goal should be all those things to happen, and this provides that. So rather than demonize, I ask that the city do not reject ideas that may not make sense to them or council members or leaders, but instead research these methods. Same thing with safe camps, of helping our community members to ensure that people are actually getting help and long-term help and refuse to give into political rhetoric. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Next, we have Melanie.
Hi, so more on the needle exchange. I have volunteered there, and What I saw were needles being traded out in equal amounts, a doctor treating people that needed it. Just for the record, responding to the guy that spoke earlier, no pipes were being handed out. I also researched and came across the same article I think that Brandy was talking about. The CDC, Centers for Control and Prevention, it just listed a few things about the truth about needle exchange programs, which is that people who utilize them are more likely to start treatment and stop injecting. It reduces infections, like she said, HIV, hepatitis, among others, and they provide other services. They provide abscess and wound care, and it's all about preventing disease and infection, and like people were saying before me, it saves people's lives. So I hope that's taken under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Lethal Garcia.
Hi, I'm Lethal. I am Secretary and Outreach Coordinator for Navigating Structures, and I also run outreach and do resources and case management for Fresno Needle Exchange. That just turned 29 this year, by the way. Society needs to stop demonizing drug users. We all love and have loved someone we care about on drugs. Harm reduction has been proven effective, and we are state funded. If Mary Dreyer, Box-Dye Brady, and Miguel Arias don't like drug use, then they should work harder on affordable housing, better mental health services, and support sex abuse victims, which are only a few examples as to things that lead to substance use. They're trying to effectively hide Fresnans that they are ashamed of instead of humanizing them and wanting them to be safe. We can't and don't need to be telling people not to use. We need to support them and continue to keep them safe. And this is something that I see every Saturday, dozens for medical and treatment, and hundreds of people that we're keeping safe. So screw your revitalization, your gentrification, and whatever restaurant that wants to pull out of Fulton Mall, because lives are at stake. In closing, Gary, you always pick the right shade, baby. Thank you and no thank you, Council.
Thank you, Lethal. Next, we have Robert McCloskey.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. It's recently reported in the Fresno Bee that this year homelessness is up at least 10%. And you're looking at more people becoming homeless every day because this city has failed to implement rent stabilization and rent control. The city has failed to use state and federal funds to build permanent housing. Although Trudy, we're looking forward to 2 tiny home villages being established, and I hope that happens soon. As Des mentioned, the $17 million is meant for housing people that are in encampments. It's meant for large encampments. I'm not sure what these funds will be used for, but I know there's an encampment sweep next week on the 20th. And I certainly hope these funds are not being used for sweeps. Cindy made the point about the mobile shower units. There's only one operating at this point, so we would oppose any further funding because we can't account for so much money was spent on just one shower. And from what I can determine, the contract was for 2 showers. Again, supporting Dallas and Lethal and others that spoke up in support of the needle exchange program. It's fully documented that harm reduction programs like this save lives. They prevent the spread of disease, and this program is so well run. I just encourage everyone to check it out further and don't make any rash decisions about that. I noticed in the CAPER report about HUD funds, under homeless prevention, it speaks to public service activities that helped 2,837 unhoused people. I don't know what that means. I think we need more details on that. The public is entitled to know what exactly that means. It goes on to talk about how many have been served in an overnight shelter, 2,464, which is, good. But we don't know how many were exited into housing and into permanent resolution to their predicaments. Many times people are moved from, or, kicked out of the shelters for different reasons, often minor infractions. And then they may be counted as an exit. So we need to look at data that we're using to make sure that it's accurate.
Thank you, Mr. McCloskey.
Thank you, Council President. There's no more public comment.
Thank you, City Clerk. Councilmember Bertefeld, I understand you wanted a minute to address some of the remarks made today.
Yes, on the needle exchange program, first of all, I did visit the program several years ago. It only confirmed for me that it's a destructive program and one that really shouldn't be operating in the county. The county does support the program. They say they don't. They actually have had staff go out there periodically through the years. Those county staff were paid with county tax dollars. So to just simply say that it's state funded is not exactly accurate. Yeah, all the drugs, all the paraphernalia is funded by the state, but they have had county staff going out there. That's county taxpayer dollars going there. They are now, as has been said, pipes are being handed out. It isn't just needles anymore, and the rationale for handing out these crack pipes is so the addicts can smoke fentanyl because it's safer than injecting it into their veins. Doesn't sound like a harm reduction program to me. It sounds like a very destructive thing to be doing, and now they're handing out pipes. Rather than handing out pipes and needles to attract people to supposedly enter drug treatment, they could offer them food, they could offer them shelter, they could offer them things that are really a lot more productive to get them into drug treatment program than handing them out needles, tourniquets, cookers, pipes, and everything else to facilitate their ongoing drug addiction. They're handing out 1 million needles every year in Fresno County that ends up in our parks. That's where they end up, on our streets, in our alleys. The studies do not prove that needle exchange programs reduce drug abuse at all, and it just defies common sense. And when this was approved by the board just a week or so ago, none of the board members, even those that supposedly oppose it, asked what the cost to the taxpayer is for this. We still don't know. They never asked the question. It's obviously got to be in the millions of dollars. So this program is not saving lives. It's facilitating drug abuse and drug addiction, which leads to despair, destruction, and death. That's what this program does. And as far as Supervisor Brandow saying that he opposes this, but not asking any questions during the board hearing about what the cost to the taxpayers is and whether or not this program truly reduces drug abuse is disgraceful. And I also want to tell him one other thing. When he says that the program has operated in the city of Fresno for 20 years, somebody needs to inform him that means it's been operating in the county of Fresno for 20 years. The city of Fresno is in the county. This is a destructive program. I will continue to oppose it, and my constituents oppose it. People with common sense oppose these programs. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar? Motion by Carbasi.
Second.
Second by Chavez. Any opposition? Seeing none, passes 6-0. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and take it to our timed items first. We have about 3 timed items I'd like for us to get through, hopefully before 11 o'clock here. Our first one is at 10:05 a.m., and this is, give me just a moment, please. This is going to be our hearing regarding public comments, substantial amendment 2023-01 to the 2023-2024 annual action plan. I'm going to go ahead and take it out to the public at this time. Does anybody in the chambers wish to speak on the 10:05 a.m. item? That's a substantial amendment to the annual action plan. Anybody online, City Clerk?
Yes, we have Brandy.
Hello, Brandy.
A moment for that to unmute. Thank you very much. Speaking to this, there is definitely things that I am very grateful for. Regarding the services that were provided, I think that beyond the numbers, we need to quantitative information regarding the effectiveness of the programs funded. There is much that looks good. That what looks good on paper is not necessarily reflective of reality, and we need to ensure that with these money sources. Among these are those who utilize shelters and those on outreach services. CAPER shows that they exceed these goals in both areas. In reality, both services help people escape homelessness and are an important part of the process. This is the goal of that funding. However, the numbers of those who have been in shelters reveals a concerning and problematic reality. There is no fair protocol for those being exited, and many people who have been wanting shelters are back on the street for reasons that could have been mitigated, or at least that there was no oversight to ensure that is reasonable. A month ago, I came across a lovely woman who was absolutely distraught and did not know what to do. She finally got into shelter. She left for personal business a few days and told the staff member beforehand and had assurance that she was okay. When she got back, the staff member wasn't there and she lost her bed. Another man told me that he was exited while he was in the hospital. A student I knew who was going to school while homeless was exited for having a dog. And while I don't understand why this was a problem, he wasn't allowed to even go back and get his school materials and had to leave school because of that. Those who question the validity of their concerns should consider having a system by where these concerns are before exiting can be fairly reviewed would help. As well, regarding the number of those helped by outreach, I mentioned this before, services usually are simply getting their names into a system. Important, but for many, that's the only service they have received because the city needs to have more service of the services that they need, more capacity for them to receive the service they need, especially permanent housing and shelters. Many have held hope that they will get into shelter. Unlike what some people have said, we as advocates do not want people to stay on this, and most people do not. The vast majority, almost 100% of people I know, do not want to stay out there. They want permanent housing. They want services. So they've held on to. Meanwhile, they're being displaced by the rest of the HEART team. We need to be realistic that these services, to see real numbers of those seeking services are getting because of an overinflated concept of help our unhoused have received. Numbers of those unhoused remain high. They are often to blame for the number for themselves being homeless and the lack of success in exiting homelessness because these numbers tell a narrative that sometimes is often skewed. Not be really realistic impedes seeing the challenges and areas of improvement that are needed to more effectively address homelessness and more realistic.
Thank you, Brandy. Next, we have Des Martinez.
Woo, let me hurry up and talk. Y'all cutting everybody today. So I just got this report this morning, so I haven't read all of it, but one thing that did interest me is the community block grant. I don't know if you guys know, but there are reports, August 11th, 2023, the city of Fresno did not administer its community block grant in accordance with the HUD requirements. Repay the program $19,000. August 11, 2023, the city of Fresno did not administer its community block grant in accordance with HUD requirements. Repay the program $139,000. It goes on to another one where they have to pay back $4,000. Then we go on to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm counting like up to 8 of these where it says the city of Fresno did not administer its community development block grant in accordance with HUD requirements. This is very concerning because your report that I'm reading is saying that you guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing with the community block grant, but there's a couple in here, one for $6 million, support the eligibility of $6,500,000 and something in code enforcement costs, including meetings, code enforcement requirements, preparing. I'm just a little confused on how you guys can be an S1 here in Fresno, California, and also be reported by these people, the HUD government, for not administering your community block grant in accordance with the HUD requirements. I think that people need to start taking this serious. There's a lot of us that are starting to read things that we never knew about before, and we're starting to come up with a lot of stuff that is just not really good. Look, on the city, I don't understand how you guys are still getting money for the CBG grant, and you guys owe them, HUD, all this money, or either you paid it already or you oblige them by whatever, but this is bad what I'm looking at. And I went down a rabbit hole because I told you, I've been studying now. All I can do is read because I can't get out too much anymore, you know? So I'm a little curious to have a meeting with the city if somebody can explain this to me. I don't agree with the part of the report that I've read so far. Like I said, I haven't read all of it, but this is a lie. The report, the numbers, the amount of beds, the people, I mean, you're having people kicked out because these are not nursing homes. And we've been saying this for over a year. Now, you guys need to start looking into the employees, what's going on in HMIS, why navigation is not inputting the information, why case management is not doing their part. 100% from the street family members means 100% from the staff in order to have something happen. But these numbers you are putting in here are lies. They're false. They're not proven. I would like to have all of them proven, but I'll get to that later at another time. I think that was it, that all I can think of. I'm trying to use up my time since y'all be cutting people off. I just figured I had a lot to say,
Thank you,
I guess. Yep, no problem.
Next, we have Robert.
Yes, I also was going to raise the question of the HUD, you know, I would call them citations to the city. There's quite a few. I think about a dozen. City not being in compliance with HUD regulations. The city remains out of compliance with HUD regulations on taking punitive actions towards homeless people and criminalizing the homeless. I think that we have to look at how you're going to use these dollars in the future. As Brandy and Des mentioned, you have these temporary shelters and transitional housing situations, and there's not enough so-called case managers. We know that it's hard to find people in this, to employ in this area, but people aren't getting the help they need. The people that are in these shelter beds and transitional housing beds. I mean, we're glad to see that over the last, 5 years, 4 years or so, that the city has increased shelter beds by over 3,000. That's good. But we also know that a lot of these shelter beds in the motels will be converted. The CAPER report speaks to several of them being converted. You got to look at these numbers again. The report says they service 2,000, almost 3,000 people, but it's not clear on what kind of services they got, like Brandy mentioned. It's not truly case management, and it doesn't lead to a permanent shelter solution. It seems to me that in the future we need to look, and in this year, again, we allocate some of these funds to a permanent housing solution. Let's look at, looking at getting those tiny home villages up as a model, but looking at other low-cost housing. The fundamental crisis that's putting more people on the street every day is the lack of housing. So I see very little permanent housing from the report, although what they've done is laudable, the affordable units on Blackstone, et cetera. But we need to look at solutions that are even more cost-effective than our current building designs provide, and this can be done. It can be done. It's being done in other cities. So let's look at some permanent housing solutions in the future, please.
Thank you. Next, we have Erlinda.
Hi, my name is Erlinda, and I am with the Fresno Homeless Union, and I'm an advocate. And my question is, why aren't there more professionally trained staff members that are experienced in the community of homelessness and more professionalism, that they deal with the cases and the homeless people having mental health issues, having, rape, sexual abuse, like having more experience and knowledge and skills to work and deal with the population that has those kinds of mental health problems. That's my question, is why aren't you guys professionally training staff members to work in these shelters and work with people that have these kind of mental health issues?
Thank you. Council President, that is all the public comment we have.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve at this time. I have a second from Esparza. Would anybody on the dais like to hear or ask any questions of our staff at this time? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, the item passes 6-0. Thank you. Next up will be our 10:10 a.m. item. This is actions pertaining to program year 2022 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report for U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Community Planning and Development Programs. I'll take it out to the public at this time. Does anybody in the chambers wish to speak on the 10:10 a.m. item? Seeing nobody in the chambers, City Clerk, do we have anybody punched up electronically?
No, we do not.
I'll make a motion to approve this item. I have a second from Esparza. Any discussion or opposition? Seeing none, the item passes 6-0. Next up is the 10:25 a.m. number 2 item. This is a hearing to consider adoption of resolutions related to the designation of properties to the local register of historic resources and adoption of findings necessary to support recommendation. Director Clark.
Good morning, Council President. Thank you so much for hearing this item this morning. Before I begin, I have the pleasure to introduce our new Historic Preservation Specialist. Dr. Alicia Chen began with the City Department this week. So she started Monday, and she's sitting in the front row here. She comes to us with extensive experience and education in historic preservation. Dr. Chen has a PhD in historic preservation, and her undergraduate degree is in engineering with an emphasis in architecture. Additionally, Dr. Chen has worked on projects in some of the most historic cities in the country, including St. Augustine, Florida. Please help me welcome Dr. Chen to Fresno. So this morning I do have a presentation, and I will try to be brief because the Council President wants me to be done by 11 o'clock, which is in 2 minutes. I don't think I can get it done that quickly. So, good morning again. Jennifer Clark, Director of Planning and Development. The nomination for listing on the local historic register was initially reviewed and initiated by the historic preservation specialist, Alicia Gonzalez, in the summer of 2022. The Historic Preservation Commission heard the nomination in September of 2022, and the naming subcommittee met on several occasions in the winter and spring of 2023. A survey was completed and record concluded in July 2023. After the August 10th meeting of this body, staff met with the applicant to secure the information that was requested, including ownership, proposed use, and commitment to preservation of the property, and you can find that in your attachments. The applicant is here in the audience if you would like additional information. The Historic Preservation Commission does recommend that the City Council approve the resolution designating the Dr. Earl R. Myers Sr. and Mrs. Maddie B. Myers Fresno Street Medical Arts Center, located at 444 Fresno Street, to the local Register of Historic Places, pursuant to Fresno Municipal Code 12-1607 and 12-1609. So, briefly, I would really like to talk a little bit about the history of the site and why it's important in our community, and acknowledge that the primary source for historical references comes from the reference book, Dr. Earl Randolph Myers, MD, Father of Black Medicine, which was written by Eric Lewis Bernard Myers, Sr. Dr. Earl Randolph Myers led a remarkable life, which was exemplified in his work advancing medicine in historically underserved minority communities in West Fresno and beyond. The medical complex located at 444 Fresno Street is an example of the dedication to ensuring access, equal access to medicine to predominantly patients of color. According to his biography, prior to World War II, there was only one Black medical doctor in Fresno, Dr. Henry Wallace. Dr. Wallace was an inspiration to the young Earl Myers when his mother was gravely ill. Due to Dr. Wallace's influence, Myers sought to pursue a career in medicine. He attended the Columbia School and matriculated to Edison High School. However, after learning that he needed to study Latin to attend medical school, Myers sought a transfer to the predominantly white Fresno High School. After high school, Myers attended Fresno State College until the onset of World War II, at which point he attended and received his medical training at Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee, one of only 2 medical schools in the nation accepting African American candidates at the time. After completing his internship and residency, Dr. Myers was encouraged to return to Fresno by Dr. Henry Wallace, who was retiring. Dr. Wallace's departure left the community with no African American doctor at the time when racial prejudice and segregation were rampant and hospitals were segregated. During this post-war period, Dr. Myers returned to Fresno in 1946 and 47 and practiced initially at 1246 F Street, a building purchased by his father, Lewis Myers. During the Korean War, Dr. Myers left Fresno to enlist as a captain in the U.S. Army. He returned to Fresno in 1951 and expanded his practice into a larger location at 1129 F Street. In 1957, Dr. Myers purchased the land at Cletty and Fresno Streets to build a medical center dedicated to providing comprehensive medical care to Black and minority residents of West Fresno. He recruited other African American physicians, pharmacists, and medical specialists to his practice. Dr. Myers hired David Horn of the professional firm of Horn and Mortland Architects to design this complex. The building supported a total of 4 African American doctors, a pharmacy, an x-ray department, and a laboratory. The Fresno Cletty Medical Arts Center was highly successful, and Dr. Myers went on to practice in Fresno for nearly 2 more decades until 1975. Dr. Myers continued to provide medical services in underserved communities for the next 3 decades in California, Oregon, and Alaska. In Alaska, he assisted as a substitute physician in remote Aleutian Islands and in Native American reservations in Oregon and California. Dr. Myers died on October 1st, 2014, at the age of 95. The 5-building medical complex was designed by architect David Horn of Horn and Mortland, who were nationally recognized for the design of the Sunshine School for the Cerebral Palsied in 1949 and 1952. They were considered to be an influential firm not only in public building design, but in developing young architects of the period. Other local work of Horn and Mortland included Firehouse No. 4 in Fresno, 1948. Sunshine School for the Cerebral Palsied, Fresno, 1949 and 1952. The Tuberculosis Hospital in Fresno, 1953. Holland Elementary School in Fresno, 1954. And Pacific Employers Insurance Office in Fresno, 1956. The property is not currently occupied and has deteriorated. However, it is structurally sound and is substantially intact in its original form and location. The construction is comprised of stucco, brick, and glass. Its style is consistent with the period, including large, low roof overhangs to provide shadow and an inner courtyard giving light to interior rooms. The buildings are connected through interior hallways and breezeways. It is important to note that integrity and condition are not the same. While the condition of the property is deteriorated, the integrity remains high. Section 12-1607 of the Historic Preservation Ordinance criteria includes first that the resource must be at least 50 years of age and have integrity of location. The complex meets the 50-year criteria as it will be 64 years old in November. Although now vacant, the building's integrity to its period of significance of 1959 to 1970 remains high. While there are a number of condition issues, the integrity remains intact. The property condition does not restrict the property from designation, and designation would allow the property owner to access local, state, and federal resources to rehabilitate the historic features in accordance with the Secretary of Interior standards. As the first Black comprehensive medical complex in Fresno, it meets the criterion 1 for its association with broad patterns of our history. Additionally, it meets criterion 2 for its association with the life of Dr. Earl Randolph Myers, a significant figure in Fresno's history, in particular for his dedication to providing medical services to minority communities. Lastly, it meets criterion 3, as it is an example of the work of Horn and Mortland, whose firm played a significant role in the development of mid-century modern architecture in Fresno. In accordance with Section 12, 1609, the hearing was properly noticed through publication in the Fresno Bee. All property owners within 2,000 feet of the subject property were noticed by mail. A Department of Parks and Recreation primary record form, DPR 523A, was prepared and presented to the city in July 2023 by Corona Hattersley Drayton, documenting the property integrity and condition and confirming eligibility for the local Register of Historic Resources. The Historic Preservation Commission unanimously voted in favor of recommending the nomination to the City Council for its significance to the West Fresno community, for its association with Dr. Earl R. Myers, Fresno's father of Black medicine, and as an example of the work of Horn and Mortland, whose firm played a significant role in the development of architecture in Fresno. While the name recommended is out of compliance with the protocols from the State Office of Historic Preservation, the Historic Preservation Subcommittee on Naming met with the applicant on a number of occasions and agreed to an honorific name. The historic name is, in fact, the Fresno Cleddy Medical Arts Center, as it is listed in directories and noted in the obituary for Dr. Myers. However, the Dr. Earl R. Myers Sr. and Mrs. Maddie B. Myers Fresno Street Medical Arts Center is an honorific name which is being recommended by the Historic Preservation Commission. I would be happy to answer any questions. I also know that Dr. David Marshall is in the audience, and I'd like to thank him for shepherding this application. I also like to thank Powell Brandon and the Board of Community Development Service of Fresno West for their commitment to the history of this site.
Thank you very much, Director. I do have Councilmember Chavez punched up. Councilmember?
Yeah, I didn't have any questions. That was a very thorough presentation. I just wanted to make the motion to accept the story recommendations.
I appreciate that. Let's hold off until we go out to the public first, just to be in accordance. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on the 1025 number 2 item? Seeing nobody in the chambers? Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you all for looking at the presentation and again for all the work that you do. But really, my reason for being here is to thank this person right here, Ms. Clark. This presentation by far exceeded anything that we expected, but it was comprehensive and it's true to the family. And again, I just wanted to say publicly, thank you so very, very much, you and all your staff.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else in the chambers wish to speak? Thank you. City Clerk?
There is no public comment.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yeah, I'll make the motion since Councilman Barrios isn't here today. Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Chavez, a second from Esparza, and I do have Councilmember Carbasi punched up to speak.
No, I just wanted to thank Jennifer Clark for doing this. I mentioned Dr. Myers' son was my teacher, and I did follow Mr. Barfield's advice and read up on Mrs. Myers. I didn't know that she actually brought Dr. King to Fresno. That's pretty significant among running for mayor and the other things she's done. So there's a lot of history to be learned from. So thank you.
Thank you. A motion and a second on the table. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, the item passes 6-0. Thank you. right, we're going to move on to contested consent. At this time, we have just the one item. That's item 1K, as in King actions pertaining to homeless street outreach, assessment, and mobile shower operations agreements provided under HAP program. This was pulled by Councilmember Esparza. Councilmember?
Thank you, Council President. Good morning, Phil. Thank you for providing the locations to my staff and for doing the outreach to ensure that our unhoused population knows where to locate the showers in particular, the services in general. But I wanted to ask, who ultimately determines the locations at which the showers are located throughout the city?
Yeah, good morning, Councilmember Esparza, Phil Sky, Assistant Director of the Planning and Development Department. As you are aware and was mentioned in the staff report that accompanies this item, this agreement is being brought to council as a result of a formal public procurement, a request for proposals. And on page 43 of that RFP, where various organizations reviewed the request, it indicates that these sites are determined in coordination with our department, the Planning and Development Department, wastewater, and ultimately part of the administration. Now, as for those of you that have shower locations in your districts, you know how important it is to the administration that we are consulting with each of you in your districts on those sites.
Yeah, so it's in conjunction with us internally. What are some of the metrics that go into how we determine those locations?
Sure, a few things. First of all, there are just technical requirements that each shower unit has to be true for a site to even be considered. So first of all, you have to have a water source and you have to have a sewer connection. So we typically use manholes for the sewer connection, and then typically use fire hydrants for water sources. There are occasionally some alternatives for the water source, but manholes are really a requirement. And so that automatically limits what is even a viable site. Furthermore, we really typically try to not close city streets for the sake of the operation. We want to choose locations where traffic can still pass. And then, of course, we're considering the general vicinity where that location is going to be to ensure that it really has as minimal impact on the neighborhood as possible.
So it's safe to say that the locations are not necessarily firmly established. I mean, they are potentially subject to change depending on different variables, notwithstanding the technical sort of requirements that must be met there.
That's correct, Council Member. So we really try, for the purpose of serving the community, to provide some stability in terms of being able to predict where the shower is going to be located. In fact, here's an example of the flyer that we publish through our social media here at the City of Fresno. We also provide that flyer, as I said, to the advocacy community and other interested parties, so that those that are unsheltered and would be using this service know where it's going to be or where one of our trailers will be at any given time. But this is a little dynamic because these shower units require regular maintenance, and so there's a maintenance schedule, and so we have to bring a trailer offline occasionally to repair and then bring it back online. And so it is dynamic, but we try to do our best to communicate well.
Yeah, no, and again, as I said earlier, I do appreciate the nice flyer, the outreach, folks. I think it's very easy to read and provides the unhoused population the opportunity to know and have a kind of a predictable location. Do we have a current contract?
We do, yes. It's expiring at the end of this month.
End of the month, okay. So what I want to do, I want to table it to the next meeting, so it's September 28th, chat offline with you a little longer. If we passed it on the 28th, would that still be sufficient?
Just check with my staff. Will we still be good? Okay, yeah. We will be okay.
Yeah, so let's table this till the 28th. We'll come back and we'll chat between now and then, and we'll come back and pass the item at that time.
Very good. Thank you so much, Councilmember.
Thank you.
I have a motion to continue. I have Councilmember Carbasi punched up. Okay. I have a motion to continue item 1K to the next council meeting. Is that correct? Second from Councilmember Chavez. Any other discussion up here on the dais? Any opposition? Seeing none, the item passes 6-0. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate your time. Okay, that'll bring us to general administration. Item 3A, actions related to the Second Amendment to the Commercial Solid Waste Franchise Agreements with Allied Waste Service of North America, doing business as Republic Service and Mid Valley Disposal to comply with SB 1383, short-lived climate pollutants. Good morning, Assistant Director.
Good morning. Thank
Hello.
you, Council President Maxwell. Good morning, City Council members, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Mayor. Well, Ahmad Al-Kayat, Assistant Director of Department of Public Utilities at the Solid Waste Management Division. In our efforts to comply with Senate Bill 1383, the short-lived climate pollutant mandate, also known as the Organics Bill, the Department of Public Utilities proposes that your council approves the second amendments to the commercial solid waste franchise agreements with both Republic Services of Fresno and Mid Valley Disposal. In this amendment, we will extend the terms of the agreements by 5 years to November 30th, 2036. Also, we will adjust the maximum customer rates and include a multifamily bulky collection program. Also, we are proposing the approval of the findings of CEQA for this item. This has been long in negotiations and meeting with our team. We're here, Republic Services is here, Mid Valley Disposal is here as well. We can take your questions or any concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We do have a couple of folks punched up. Councilmember Chavez, are you ready to speak at this time?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Thank you, Maud and our city manager, for the meeting that we took. Just a couple of questions, and we touched a little bit when we were kind of going through the initial conversations of what this would look like for our customers, our residents, and folks in the city. So, for example, I think one of the things that I want to make sure that we clear up, and I don't know if it might be a question for you or maybe for the haulers, but what would this look like in practical form for, say, for example, you have a shopping center and you have different businesses within that shopping center, right? And you have, for example, a tailor shop that does not produce any organic waste, so to speak. That's not their business model, as opposed to a small grocery store or a restaurant or, you know, some type of model. Like, what would that look like as far as the fee that is assessed, and then the waiver that we are providing as an option?
Okay, well, I'll start with this, and I'll invite any of the franchises to
Mr.
come
Wallace,
over
Mr.
and
Kalpikoff,
add
you
to
might
it.
want
Yeah.
to be on standby. Thank you.
First, this amendment will simply make us compliant with SB 1383, so the organic service is no longer an option, it's mandatory. And then it's up to the franchise and their customers to see how best can they fulfill this requirement by the city. Our office receives requests from both franchises with any proposed waivers for any of the commodities. Could be a recycling, could be an organic, and then we send our program compliance officers. They'll check the situation and we approve or comment or disapprove. But as far as the dynamics between the business and the customer, that is that's internal between them. So
yeah, I'd like to hear from the haulers what that would look like. I know there's a formula in doing a little bit of research where if you don't produce X amount of gallons, you get a waiver. So maybe Mr. Kapikoff.
Good morning, Council President, Council Member, City Manager, Mayor, and staff. Joseph Kalpikoff, 2721 South Elm. SB 1383 has two waiver components that is built into the regulation. It is for commercial businesses, both waivers. There's a space constraint requirement that if you don't have actual space for an organics container, you can get a waiver. The second is a de minimis amount of organic waste. And so it starts with 20 gallons per week. If you produce less than 20 gallons per week, such as a sewing shop, maybe a cell phone shop, then you could apply for a waiver, and that service would not be required under that waiver. That waiver is good for, I believe, 5 years, and those will be filled out by the hauler, submitted to the city for final approval. So the city will have final approval on these waivers. I believe it ratchets up to about 10 gallons in 2025 or 2026.
So 20 gallons from now until 2026, that day, and then it goes to 10 gallons on there. Okay. And then with regards to the bulk item conversation that we're having, as you know, our offices get calls from folks that dump stuff in the alleyway. They obviously when we have our operation cleanup, they go and dump stuff. We get folks from different areas. I want to make sure that folks understand how this will help ensure that we minimize that. I don't think we're ever going to completely eliminate, folks that do things they're not supposed to, but how would this help, obviously, with folks that have, like, for example, a multifamily residential place that we would, be providing services for? Logistically speaking, would they go drop that off, coordinate with the haulers, and then they would, or we're not going to have just like a blanket program, correct?
Yes, good question and concern. With this bulky collection program for the multifamilies, this will minimize the constant struggle of illegal dumping, right? We will be collecting items in coordination with the franchises, with the multifamily businesses, where they can do once a year collection, and every apartment is eligible to participate in this program. They will be properly notified by the franchise, and there are dedicated dispatcher from each of the franchises. There's monitoring, and each business has its own need of how the franchise can best serve. But they will have access to that program once a year, and that's built in.
If I could just interject real quick with a quick question. Does that request need to come from the landlord, or can it come from the tenants?
We will proactively reach out to every...
We won't.
Correct. The team, which is correct. The franchise will.
The franchisees. The city will not. This is a program that Mid-Valley and Republic. So that's a very important detail.
You're correct, Ms. Manager, but
so let me ask the franchisees then, does the acceptance for that service need to come from the landlord, or can the tenants request that service?
It could come from either. So the notices and the advertisement will go directly to the landlord or the property manager who paid the bill. So we currently invoice them now. And so as part of those invoices, we will be adding the education for this program in there.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah,
I apologize, Councilmember Chavez.
No problem, Council President, because I think we're trying to get to a point where we can understand this better, because I know what's going to happen. We're going to get a lot of calls from folks as we roll out something new, and we just want to make sure we're prepared to answer those questions or refer them to our folks. I'd like to hear from the folks from Republic, just on the same questions. I know we have two service providers that do North Fresno and they do South Fresno. But I want to make sure that criteria that we utilize and that approach, is that what Republic will use, or is it something different? And I'm specifically referencing the criteria for the waiver for the businesses. Is it going to be the 20 gallons or less? Will you folks also adhere to that as well, or do you have a different criteria?
For the criteria for that's what the state law says, so it'll be the same.
So it's a mandate. You can't not refuse the waiver then, correct?
Well, the city will approve or deny the waiver. We just gather the information based on the type of business. So like your example, I think a tailor shop, they don't have any organic waste. They'll fill out a waiver form, give that to us, so we'll be the middleman there. and then we'll hand that off to the city, and they'll send out their staff to determine if that information is correct.
And that's what I want to understand, City Manager, because we have obviously two different vendors, and we're going to have customers across the city. So the way you're explaining it to me, you will use that same approach, have them fill out that waiver that is a state mandate. However, it will come to the city for approval or denial, correct?
That's correct. I think this is an important detail because, so where we have a commercial center that has multiple businesses, right? And the landlord, the property manager for that center receives the bill. They are the customer of Mid-Valley and Republic. So where this gets tricky is the customer, and I don't know if we know the answer to this yet. So if a tenant, so let's say the shopping center is owned by ABC Company. Joe's Tailoring doesn't produce any organic waste.
Right.
But Jim's Restaurant produces organic waste. And they may produce not more than a de minimis, which requires an organic waste container. So how the landlord divides the charge for complying with the organics law when you have some tenants that produce nothing and other tenants who do produce, that's not something that we can dictate because they're not our customers, but it is a tricky situation, and I don't know if Mid-Valley or Republic can offer.
That's exactly what
the
I'm
point.
trying to get
I know,
down to.
I know.
Just because I know a lot of us have commercial corridors that have various different businesses within them. So I guess my specific question is, will we be prorating that charge, or will you be prorating that charge, or will it just be a one-size-fits-all approach? That's what I'm trying to get to.
So in that example, yes, the property manager is our customer. They get the bill. They're the ones that are on the hook for this law to start with. Typically in those situations, there's shared bins throughout the shopping center for trash recycling organics, so that'll continue. And then in that example with that business, is that extra service going to be split between all those tenants? I think that's what you're worried about, especially for the ones that aren't producing any organics. That'll probably end up being between the property manager and the tenant to figure out those details. Is the property manager just going to bill the restaurants for that extra services or not? If there's any disagreements, then we can go in to those individual businesses. For example, if the property manager doesn't want to add organics or something, doesn't want to be compliant, then we'll go to those individual businesses. The tailor shop, you get a waiver, the restaurant you don't, and get them an individual.
Yeah, and that's what I want to make sure that we're very clear on, and trying to kind of minimize the amount of confusion that we'll have, because we will have confusion. So for example, in that scenario where we do have a shopping center that has, and we keep using a tailor shop, and then a food producing business, will the waiver be provided to those individual businesses within the shopping center? They will be given the opportunity to apply, or does that whole shopping center count as one vendor that the vendor would apply individually? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, so if the property manager approves adding an organics container for the food waste for the restaurant, that isn't just for that restaurant, because typically that is shared services for the whole center, right? The tailor shop may not have enough to have their own container, but there's still employees there. They're still eating lunches or whatnot, so they still might have food waste. Maybe it's not enough for the 20 gallons, and if they were on their own, they would get a waiver, but now because they're part of the shared shopping center, they're still going to be utilizing that container, right?
It's not the
And whole-
tenant, council member. The tenant will not, individual tenants will not apply for the waiver. It will be the customer that applies for the waiver.
I want to make sure we're clear on that.
I know, and
That's very
I
key.
know, I understand where you're trying to go, and the difficulty in this, and I know your concerns is, we're not used to this because we're used to these people being our customers and us having control over how we serve the customers. This is different, though, because they're not our customers. While they're our constituents, they're not our customers. They're Mid-Valley and Republic's customers. And so, to a certain extent, we have to rely upon our franchisee to be communicating and doing a good job and interacting. And I would suggest that if they probably reach out to somebody like the Apartment Association for Multifamily, and then maybe the chamber or somebody. It's very hard to find an umbrella organization that covers sort of the commercial shopping center business, but it is, I'm just being perfectly transparent. It's going to be a tricky situation because it will be the customer that applies for the waiver, and it will be up to the landlord to determine how they allocate the charge. And you may have some landlords that are very good and say, hey, it's the restaurant that's generating the organic waste, and they should pay a higher rate in CAM charges because our other people aren't. And you may have others that just want to do it easy and just divide it per square foot like most other CAM charges are. So I understand where you're trying to go, and I don't know that we have a perfect answer for you.
No, and I don't even expect a perfect answer today. I think what I want us to be prepared, and this is my experience representing the southern part of the city. Anytime we've ever had any issue with our hauler with Mid-Valley, something doesn't get, we call them and they're very responsive. I'm not sure with Republic's model because I've not experienced that. That's why I want to make sure we're all on the same page and there's a uniform approach. So along those lines, maybe for Republic, while you're here, what would be your outreach plan as we roll this out for your communication with a lot of your customers that will fall under this umbrella for SB 1383?
Yeah, keep in mind too, we've had a previous law, AB 1826, related to food waste that we've been dealing with for a few years now. So most shopping centers, I think we have about 400 containers out there for food waste that's been in place for a few years, and we haven't had these issues come up. So hopefully, that continues. But for the outreach, we utilize anything we can. We send information with the invoices. We contact them directly. We send people out to educate all the tenants. We utilize as many of those tools as we can to get the word out.
So what will that look like for Republic for the first 3 months? Will you have a person assigned to doing the communication? Will your current communication team do that? Walk us through what that will look like.
Yeah, so I am one of them, so I will be communicating with all of our customers this law. So that's going to start with a letter, informational flyer going out with the invoice, with the November invoice, as that's when this would potentially start, along with the waiver form will be included with that. So any customers will have that in the mail. They can fill that out. We're also going to have an online waiver form for anybody that wants to do that online. We have a website. A lot of this stuff will get posted to. We have quarterly newsletters that'll get information will get put on, and then we'll continually send out stuff with the invoices over the coming months, along with direct contact. I've been with Republic for 12 years, so I have a lot of these contacts already. A lot of our customers know me, and so I'll be communicating that with them.
Okay. And then for our Mid-Valley folks, maybe Joe, you could walk us through what the outreach plan will be for your folks.
Well, if you can ask Councilmember Bredefeld, we already started the process. We started back in April and May. We have a full outreach team, a department of about 14 full-time staff, a manager dedicated just for the Fresno contract, as well as 3 outreach coordinators. So we've been, the last 4 or 5 months, we've been doing direct mailers and phone calls to recipients who may qualify for a waiver. So we've got stacks of those already in place to hand over to the city. Again, our website's pretty robust with a lot of information already built on there. We did send a mailer out last monthly utility billing saying it's coming. 1383 is coming. Be prepared. So we've started, and our team is ready to go. The carts couple thousand carts are sitting at our Whitesbridge location right now, ready to be implemented.
No, that's good to hear. I mean, especially since you cover the area that we represent, and you know, like I said, you guys have been great. Something, for whatever reason, something doesn't happen, we call, it's addressed right away. We want to make sure that we have that certainty, and I say that because as we're going through our conversation, there are oftentimes, you know, folks that go through trash bins, particularly if they're looking for food or anything, and when something stays out there, it creates a health hazard. We're trying to avoid, obviously, that situation from occurring, particularly in areas where we have large shopping centers, that those of us that share jurisdiction, I know Councilmember Esparza and I share the First and Tulare area, and we're trying to work towards that. So we just don't want to create these magnets for folks that congregate there. The last question that I have, and thank you, Joe, for that, maybe it's to Ahmad or our city manager. So what is in the provision for this agreement? Say, for example, because we're under the gun now with requirement and compliance from the state, and we don't want to get fined $10,000 a day. What happens if one of the vendors, for whatever reason, is not able to perform? What would be the contingency plan for us to be able to address that?
Yes, we do have all these conditions and stipulations in the original contract, the franchise agreement. And depending on the case, there are certain reports that are due to us monthly, quarterly, semi-annually. There are some inspections. With this SB 1383, it's very, the state strengthened the monitoring and compliance requirements, and record keeping. And we will need to report to the state, so I expect them to report to us in a timely manner. We have monthly reports as well that we receive from both franchises. That will continue, and in these monthly reports, we have every single complaint that comes from, hey, I missed my bill, can you help me, or you skipped my cart, come serve me. So we get all that and how the response was to all these claims. So monitoring, compliance, monitoring, record keeping is expected, and we monitor it regularly.
That's helpful. My last question is with regards to the outreach, and I totally appreciate the situation we're in. I think this is something new. My concern, to be quite honest, is just more with small businesses. Small business folks that are going to have to go through the process and the transition. My office will obviously be engaged with our service provider and working on doing some of the outreach, and particularly those waivers that they will be able to apply for, and if they're eligible, be granted. So thank you guys for the work. I know it's not an easy job that we're going to have to work through, but I am actually very impressed with the total model that we put together as we try to comply. And I think this was probably one of the most well-attended workshops at the California League of Cities last time around. I'm sure it'll be this time around next week. So thank you, Ma. Thank you to our city manager for answering all the questions, and look forward to making this as easy as possible. With that, thank you, Council President.
Thank you. I have Council Vice President Perea, followed by Councilmember Carbasi.
All right, thank you, Council President. Just to kind of piggyback off of my colleague's last question. So this agreement extends the franchise agreements 5 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If we have one contractor who is just not performing up to necessary standards, what safeguards do we have in place to be able to cancel a contract with one of them?
We have not amended this clause in the existing agreement, so the same terms and termination and all the conditions still apply. So we have not amended it. If there is, we can put we can put them on notice, and then there is a process. It gets escalated, and then we can. There is this option to terminate the contract.
We can give them a notice, and ultimately we can put them in default.
Yeah.
And then they'll have a opportunity to cure the default. And if it we were not successful. Ultimately, the business can be pulled and can be pulled from them, and we would have to find another provider to cover that vendor's business. But I mean, if we ran it all the way through, this is not, if we have a vendor that's not performing to the terms of the franchise agreement and the amendments, because we've been down this road a few steps before, and we have done it in the past. We haven't had to go all the way to the end. We haven't had to go to the distance, but we will put them on notice for non-performance and make sure that they understand very clearly what will happen if they don't perform.
Okay, thank you. And then one of the waiver options is based on not having enough space for the food waste bin. Does our current city trash enclosure standard just not accommodate that spacing? Or are we going to grandfather in these built-out trash enclosures? What's our plan for that?
So still working on that. Obviously, this takes effect in November. I literally just have not had a free moment to talk to Jennifer, so I do need to circle back. Most of the trash enclosures are designed for the traditional, roll-off bin, not roll-off, sorry. How many yards are those bins, the big ones?
2 cubic yards.
Three yard bins. So we do need to do a little research if they want to expand the size of their enclosure. I think what I've heard from everybody is that in most instances, in multifamily, it's going to be probably a 96-yard cart with a lid. If it's a heavy user, it is going to be probably like a 1 or 2 yard bin. So we have to work through that with our internal process to make sure that when we're approached by the vendors, we'll understand what the process is. So literally, I have it on my list to do when I have a minute after this meeting or tomorrow to follow up with Jennifer in planning and development to understand what it would take if we need to either build an additional enclosure for for an organic bin or expand an existing enclosure. I would love for them to be grandfathered in, but we'll have to look and see what the CEQA requirements are.
Okay. Let me see. I think I had one more. The exemption/waiver process, that's just solely for the compliance with 1383. Someone can also, though, opt out of the bulky item program as well?
Okay, yes, the waivers is for the organics or the recycling, but the bulky item, you participate or don't participate, that's your choice. If you don't have something to dispose of, I don't think we'll.
So if I live in an apartment complex, my property manager can opt into the program? Or are we automatically in the program?
Everybody is assumed to be served once a year, every apartment.
They're paying for it in their rate, so it would be in their best interest to coordinate. And I do know, at least from the instance of Mid-Valley, they will be outreaching to their customers saying, hey, this is included as a service in your bill. You're paying for this. Let's coordinate a date to do a bulky pickup. Obviously, I think it would be silly to not get, what you're paying for and arrange that for your facility. But it wouldn't be, if somebody theoretically wants to pay for a service and not receive that service, I don't know that we would penalize them for that. However, I can tell you that if they then have a illegal dumping problem within their facilities, I don't think that we would look very kindly upon that from a code enforcement perspective. If we're giving an opportunity to, receive bulky items and you're choosing not to participate, but then you have illegal dumping all over, that would be something we'd have to have a pretty good conversation about.
Yeah. No, this is a program I support because I'm a renter. And so right now, it's the single family homes that have the ability to bring out their bulky items onto the street curbs. And so I think this is an incredible program to expand to the multifamily units within reason, because it's one bulky item per unit. I represent areas like the Tower District where we're very dense in the number of multifamily developments. And so if we were to apply the same program of bulk pickup that we do with single families to multifamilies, the entire Tower District at any given one time it would look like a tremendous dumping grounds, and we would get rid of all of our parking, essentially. So I think the program makes sense. It's something that I support. And I just want to thank staff for all the hard work that has been put into this, to the contractors for your time today and for answering all of my questions. And thank you to you, Assistant Director, as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Vice President. Councilmember Carbasi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate that. And thank you so much to staff for meeting with us, City Manager, and helping us get educated on this matter. I know a lot of people don't really know about this. I'm going to say just a few baseline points. SB 1383, whether you support the merits of it or not, it's another unfunded mandate from the dictators in Sacramento. And I know I'm using that dramatic word dictator, but here's the reality. We are given no funding, essentially, to help deal with this problem, which is forcing us to pass that burden on to our ratepayers. If we don't comply, Sacramento says we have to pay $10,000 a day. The city, meaning taxpayers, are penalized $10,000 a day. That's $70,000 a week. So every week we don't comply, Sacramento's taking away a park ranger from us. Sacramento's taking away a community service officer from us. That's why I get so animated and upset when these unfunded mandates come through. So I want to say, coming into this, after meeting with staff, asking some questions in the background, I was supportive. I'm not saying I'm not supportive. Republic's answer made me very, very unconfident. I mention you because you do represent and service the areas in my district. In the past, there have been some problems. All those have been sorted out, and I'm grateful for that. But when my colleague mentions the concern we have for small business, and another colleague mentions another concern, the response given is, we've done this in the past, and businesses haven't expressed concern. I want to assure you, as a small business owner, what is happening now that maybe wasn't happening with the previous bill is that inflation is happening. The cost of gas and electricity is a lot higher. Rents are higher. So these small mom and pop shops are going to be, they're going to scrutinize these increases a little more. And the problem is if they qualify for a waiver, yet there isn't a proactive measure like Mid-Valley has taken to help these qualified businesses engage with their landlords and get that waiver, then I'm worried about the people living north of Ashland and the businesses north of Ashland that will be impacted by this. So what I don't want to see is, well, we've done it before, it wasn't a big deal. I want to see, you are the representatives of the people, you're concerned, so we're going to be concerned as well. And I say that because I'm trying to anticipate the calls we're going to get from people because this is totally new. They're not going to know how to respond to this. Some people may just say, okay, I'll deal with it. But there's a lot that won't, and guess who they're going to call? They're going to call their council members. So in anticipation of problems we can have, Council Vice President Perea made a good point about retrofitting current multifamily complexes that don't have space for these bins potentially, or the issues that for small businesses that Council Member Chavez mentioned. And I believe Council Vice President asked what leeway we have. But I want to know from our City Attorney, Tina, short of issuing a default, is there anything here that allows a city manager to engage with some teeth with the hauler before we get to that point to ensure they will come to the table and make little changes? Because we're going to be learning along the way because we're trying to avoid those hefty fines from Sacramento.
Yes, it will be dictated by the terms of the contract. I have Angela Karst here, Senior Deputy, who's been working on is very familiar with the contract terms, so she can speak to those issues.
Thank you. No.
Okay.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Good morning, Angela Karst, City Attorney's Office. So, as Amada mentioned previously, we did not amend the terms as to the termination. So any terms that are in the current original agreement would apply. And so we would have to work based off of that. And that is, again, if there's a breach of, their contract and not processing or not fulfilling their obligation, we would have to notify them and then go through that. So unfortunately, nothing new was added in the amendment. It would be based off the original agreement.
Can you describe the original process? What's in there right now?
Sorry, I don't have the original agreement with me, but we can get
Basically, the sentiment is, and I'm open to any suggestions, I just want to ensure that the moment we vote for this and give away our leverage as a council, that if small problems arise, short of being able to force a violation on these companies, which is a long process, there is a method and a commitment to be able to negotiate these through so that the burden on small businesses or apartment homeowners or commercial properties is compliant with the law, but also is reasonable in practice.
If you want to answer, Angela, and then I'll talk, or?
Go ahead.
Okay. So what I would, based on my experience with the original contract, what I would say is where we have had to trigger the notice that we've previously sent is when it comes to complaints. So customer complaints and unresolved complaints are one of the items that are measured within the contract. So if we have complaints that are not being resolved appropriately, we have the ability to notice them and direct them to appropriately respond to the complaints and comply with the terms of their contract. And so what I would say is, for instance, if we are getting a number of complaints from small business people who are concerned about how the bins are being serviced or their ability to not get information or not receive return phone calls, or are not their complaints not being addressed, that is something that they have to do under the current contract. They cannot not return phone calls. They cannot not answer questions. They're obligated to do that under the current contract. So, we've been in this space before, and what I will tell you is because the ultimate stick, frankly, that we have is to terminate the agreement. I don't know that any one of these vendors want us to be in a place where they are not resolving the issues to the point that we are going to terminate the agreement. So I can tell you, having been through this before, and making sure that the vendor clearly understands, we've put them on notice in writing. We followed up in a meeting. We say, you are not resolving this to our satisfaction. Here are the specifics. If they don't, ultimately can result in termination of their contract. So we haven't had to go there because they have then, and frankly, we've even elevated it. When we've had issues locally, and if we feel like it's not being responsive, you better bring somebody in who, and up the chain of command, whether it be with Mid-Valley, if it's a lower level staff person, we would bring Joe in. With Republic, if it's a local person that's not being responsive, we will go up the chain of command. So I hear what you're saying, and I think, and unless Angela wants to say something different, I think our opportunity is within the standards under the original contract as far as their customer service that they're required to provide. And if they aren't, we do have the ability under the contract to put them on notice, and I'll let Angela, the real lawyer, respond.
Yes, and so to expand on that, once the hauler has been noticed, within 10 days of that notification, we can terminate the contract if they don't respond, or they can also appeal to the council, at which time the council can hear their appeal for the termination. If the council decides to uphold the city manager's decision to terminate, then 10 days from the council's decision to terminate, then the contract is terminated altogether, and then again, we would have to go somewhere else for that service.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we definitely have a nuclear option, which can be very motivating. With something new, even for the haulers, there's going to be growing pains in the process. I guess what I'm trying to say is I would like proactive, you go to city manager if there's a problem and vice versa, so that way we can negotiate these things with the care that your customers, our businesses and people living in apartment complexes need. So with that, if you feel that the current contract is enough for you, when I come to you and say, hey, we've got a problem, to work through that, then I'll be okay.
I do on the things that are currently within the contract. What I won't be able to solve are the little intricacies that we talked about that are going to be between, say a landlord and a tenant. There won't be there's not anything in the current contract about that type of issue. But as far as customer service, if once again, not returning phone calls, not being responsive to their customers, I have a pretty low tolerance for that. Obviously, I've dealt with both you and Councilmember Bredefeld Once I get involved, that's not a good thing.
Right, absolutely. Okay, I just don't want, and I appreciate that, that makes me feel a lot more confident. I just don't want the blame game that tenants or tenants of the businesses or residents are being stuck between a landlord, property manager, and then the hauler going back and forth. So I expect you guys to work on that. So with that, I'll be supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain any motions at this time, council. I have a motion from Perea, and was that a second from Chavez? Okay, and take it out to the public at this time. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on item 3A? Seeing nobody in chambers, City Clerk, do we have anybody punched up?
There's no public comment.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, the item passes 6-0. Thank you, Assistant Director. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll bring us to our last open session item, 3B as in boy, actions pertaining to the creation of the Animal Center Department within the city of Fresno. And I believe we have the formidable Deputy City Manager, Alma Martinez. Good morning, Alma.
That's a lot of pressure. Good morning, City Council. Alma Torres, Deputy City Manager in the Office of the Mayor and City Manager. As you are all well aware, in May of 2022, concurrently with the completion of the new Animal Center facility, the city outsourced animal control services to Fresno Humane Animal Services. Prior to the renewal of the 14-month contract approved by Council in May of 2022, Fresno Humane notified the city of their intent to not renew, and the current extension is scheduled to end on November 30th, 2023. This has created the need to bring animal control services under the operation of the city, as the city is legally mandated to provide for the maintenance of a pound system and a rabies control program. Before you today are a number of items that require your approval that allow that transition to internal operations to continue. The first item is the resolution that authorizes the creation of the Animal Center Department under Section 801 of the Charter. The second is the 8th Annual Appropriation Resolution to reclassify $6,741,400, which was approved by Council in the FY 2024 adopted budget for animal control services. These appropriations were budgeted in the General City Purpose Department, and your approval will allow us to reclassify this to the new Animal Center Department. The third item before you is the resolution creating 75 new positions and transferring 2 existing positions from the General City Purpose Department to the new Animal Center Department. And the last item before you is the third amendment to the fiscal year 24 salary resolution and the respective salary tables, adding the classifications of Animal Resource Officer 1, Animal Resource Officer 2, and Senior Animal Resource Officer under Unit 3, non-supervisory white collar, and providing a monthly salary step plan range. This is the first of other amendments that will continue to come before you as additional Animal Center-focused classifications and respective salary ranges are added to the salary resolution, consistent with providing notice to the respective bargaining units for the meet and confer obligations. Additionally, we will continue to return to Council for approval of service and material contracts and agreements, to accept grant funds, to update the master fee schedule, and subsequently to update the municipal code to align with best modern practices in animal control and welfare. Prior to concluding my summary, I just want to thank Fresno Humane for all of their help in getting us to where we are today and taking the time to train us. City Manager Georgia Ann White for her patience and her guidance. All of the assistant city managers for allowing me to ask the same question 4 different ways. And all of the departments that have been involved in this transition. Here with me is the Personnel Department, but also the Finance Department, ISD, Budget, and most of all, it's to the Animal Center staff who continue to show up every single day to take care of all of the animals that come into that center. So I'm available to address any questions. The Personnel Department is here as well.
I do want to thank you, Alma. You really are the mastermind behind all things Animal Center, and I appreciate the time you and City Manager White have taken to educate me on your plan to make this a facility that gives our pets the best treatment that they could possibly receive. I know it's going to take some time for us to get to the level we want to be at. This administration has made several structural changes in the last 2.5 years, and I think they've all been positive. So giving you guys the benefit of the doubt, I think you have a good plan, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Thank you for the presentation. I'm going to make a motion to approve, but I do have a couple of my colleagues punched up at this time, starting with Vice President Perea.
I'll second your motion.
And I have a second from Bredefeld.
All right, well, this is a very exciting time for the city, Alma, so thank you for all your hard work and to your team for helping us to get to this point. Just wanted to talk a little bit more about the transition. It looks like we're transferring over 2 positions and then hiring 74, 75 new additional folks. Is that, and then we're keeping the employees from the animal center?
We are, I will allow the personnel department to work through that.
Okay, and my question really is just to hear a little bit more about the overall transition and how we can be the most efficient and effective with the transition between the 2 entities.
Absolutely.
Thank you. The way we're going to approach this is we have existing employees at the animal center that are not City of Fresno employees. There are 2 current employees that are City of Fresno employees, and those are the 2 we're transferring over. We're identifying the positions, and the 2 first classifications that are on, they're actually the 3 classifications that are on the salary resolution. That'll be our first attempt at, we'll post those positions. The individuals can apply for those positions and go through the process, and we're methodically working through that. Our whole goal is continuity of operations. So we have no desire to disrupt the operation. We're going to methodically go through this and identify what positions are needed. Some are going to be classifications we already have. Those will be easier. We'll still need to go through meet and confer. For example, a principal accountant. We may need a principal accountant out there. Once we identify, we will open up, if there's not already a list, open up for anyone who's interested and go through our regular process. The goal is, like I mentioned before, continuity of operations, so we'll be very methodical through this. We will have to go through meet and confer with the bargaining units, even for classifications that we already have, because we're going to have to add items to the job specifications, noting that they're going to be working with animals, and in those assignments, for example, staff assistant, we have staff assistants throughout the entire organization, but not all assignments are working in an animal center where you could have allergies. You may have different requirements to assist if an animal gets out and lifting an animal and so forth. So we're working through all of those with FCEA and CFPEA, and we will with CFMA and Local 39 as well.
Great, thank you. So meet and confer has not yet happened, but it will be soon.
Right, some of those meetings are already set. We're giving tours and working through all of everything that comes at us. We will work through it, but our first initial pass is to get those positions so that we can start filling them.
Great. And then do we have an on-site vet, or do we contract out that service?
No, at this point, we do not have an on-site vet, but once you approve this department, we're just about that close to hitting, post on a internal veterinarian, but we do contract out that service. We're also looking to work with some of the maybe relief vets to come in until we are able to secure a veterinarian.
Got it. And then my last question is, can you just provide a general timeline of milestones in order to get the department up and running?
We're hoping to get all of this done by November 30th. So within the next council, we're going to come back with your approval for some grants that were initially allocated to Fresno Humane, and the remaining balances are coming to us. We will probably be, maybe within the next 2 council sessions here, coming back with the additional positions. We're going to be coming back with getting some of the bids out there and granting to successful bidders, and just identifying everything that will fall under our jurisdiction and our policies and our processes.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Deputy City Manager. Thank you, Council President.
Councilmember Chavez, followed by Councilmember Carbasi.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Thank you, Alma, for I don't even know how many times I've toured the facility when we broke ground, when we were building it, but you guys do a great job out there. It's a very difficult job, and I had a chance to see, just when we had opened it up, how full our facility was. And I think it's because we have a lot of irresponsible owners that, don't take the time to, spay and neuter their pets. And so we have the challenge that we have to work with. There are a couple of things that I wanted to flag for you, and I know you've been doing this. When we started the conversation about, our animal center, we did a lot of work with our rescues, with folks that are very passionate about, protecting and finding, forever homes for our pets. And I want us to keep that, right? Work in that relationship with our rescues. We work with 2 or 3 of them, particularly in South Fresno, that do a lot of great work, oftentimes with limited budgets. But I want us to keep that conversation going with them. I think they are part of the solution that we have. My questions deal more with, as we're kind of building this model with regards to the sustainability of our animal center. What are we prepared to do with regards to enforcement of a lot of folks? Like, we have a lot of illegal breeders that do that within the city of Fresno. Do we have a penalty for that? How many, and you don't have to give me these numbers now, but I'd like to continue the conversation with you later. How many folks in the city of Fresno actually registered their dog? We have a process right now. We have dog licenses that are issued. And I'll give you an example. My family rescued a dog about 6 months ago, registered the dog right away. But I started thinking, how many folks in the city of Fresno actually do that? I think that data will help us guide what conversations we have next, because I think we're not going to be able to rescue our way out of the challenge that we have which is an overwhelming amount of loose dogs that are oftentimes, close to schools. We get calls from parks of pet owners that don't care for their pets. So I like to just kind of flag that for you now, and maybe continue the conversation with you later. How many, dog licenses has the city issued in the last couple of years? What does that look like for a city of 500,000? Because I think there's going to be an opportunity to have conversations with our constituents about how we actually sustain a lot of the services and, programs that our folks have. Oftentimes we get calls from family members that, hey, we have loose dogs that have been loose, and we find out they're abandoned now. They don't really have an owner. People that, for whatever reason, chip their dogs, and then when we find them, our folks find them, they don't want them anymore, so they, surrender them. I think this just creates the challenge that we've had across the city of Fresno, across the region, quite frankly. But those 2 things I just wanted to flag for you. One, the continuing to work, have a good relationship with the rescues that do a lot of great work. And then 2 is, let's start the conversation about with regards to what does that look like for people that are irresponsible here in the city of Fresno, and just promulgate this problem that we've had with our cats and dogs. Oftentimes, it's really hard as somebody who, and I chuckled when President Maxwell said he was a cat person. I am now a cat and a dog person. I have 2 rescue cats and then a rescue dog, because you can't stand to take them to the shelter. Oftentimes that's, the last resort. But thank you for the work that you've been doing there, your team. We're hopeful that this actually helps us chip away at that problem we have at the city, and then just look forward to talking to you about the data that I requested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Carbasi, followed by Councilmember Bertefeld.
I'll be really quick. I just wanted to thank everyone who's done the great work. Alma, you're a star, really. When you're in charge of something, I'm a lot more comfortable. You want to help with the hauling contract with the garbage?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. But really, you're doing a great job, and thank you, personnel, everyone. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I echo that too. You're all doing a great job, and you think about where we were when this all started, and with SPCA, and but one of the things that I want to know, how are we doing with adoption and rescue operations? I mean, this is something that we really wanted to emphasize. I know, we can't save every animal, but that's really been an emphasis. Where are we at with that? We're out at the airport. How involved are we with some of the other rescue operations? Should we be more involved with other operations? Where's that at?
We will become more involved with all of the rescue operations throughout the city. In fiscal year 2023, the adoption rate was about 17%. So we will work very hard to increase that, but I do want to remind the council that adoption is just a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. So our goal here will be that we tackle the root of the problem, and that is to utilize data to see how we can actually provide resources to those residents that feel that they need to, surrender their animal. Perhaps it's a training issue, perhaps it's, whatever it is, we want to be able to make sure that we deliver that for them so that they can stay with their pets. Absent that, we will be happy to work with rescues and find homes for them. Our goal is to not euthanize. And I think that the staff has been doing an amazing job in being able to do that, and we do work with rescues outside of the state. We work with rescues in the Bay Area, so that is what we are doing, but it will definitely not be the entire focus. We want to be able to mitigate the amount of animals that come into the center.
What are we charging for spaying operations at this point?
In order to save them, there are times when we don't charge anything. So it actually ends up costing us because we have to legally spay and neuter them before we're able to adopt them. Right now we have a promotion that is being sponsored by one of our partners, Best Friends, and it's 0 cost. But when we don't have those promotions, we do make every effort to make it accessible for everybody so that we can find a live outcome for all of the animals that come into the center.
Are there grants that we could pursue where there are free operations, number one? And number two, if they are free, do you see that there is an increase in people coming to spay and neuter their pets? I mean, is that
Yes.
really the hurdle?
So as you're aware, we did offer a low-cost spay and neuter program. The interest is probably over 4,000 people, over 4,000 pets on that list, and we're working through it. As you know, we are limited by the availability of veterinarians, but I think that if we are able to offer that, and once we have a veterinarian on board, maybe move through that list a lot quicker.
Okay, I mean, I've kind of wondered about the level of financial commitment that this council could make if that truly made a difference. My colleague, Council President Maxwell, worked at really reducing rates on buses for people who needed it. Got it to one point where they weren't even paying for it. I wonder if that level of commitment towards this from this council, and I think frankly it would be there if there's some way to do that, if we could truly help in reducing people having other pets that aren't spayed and neutered, which creates the problem. We all know that creates the problem. So I just wonder if there's really, if cost is the issue, if there's some way we can find resources to address that.
I think that now that this is going to be under the operation of the city, it's going to open up opportunities for grant funding. We are having conversations with other entities that are willing to help us out. We just need to identify, the veterinary services, and of course that then follows a process. So I think that, as far as that goes, we're prepared. We just need to get through a first couple of steps to then move on to that service.
Councilmember, I think right now, I don't think it's the money. I think we're constrained a lot by the lack of by the lack of the providers to do the spay and neuter. I know Alma and Fresno Humane have worked with, what is the Vets Without Borders organization called?
Animal Balance.
So we do have, we are trying to reach out to bring more capacity of the actual providers to do the spay and neuter. I think it would be great when we can get our own vet on staff, and one of the benefits of it being in the city, I hope, is I think you created the veterinarian position two meetings ago. We're pricing that at like a director level position. And so we're hoping that with it being a city position with all of the benefits that come with a city job and at the salary level, we're really hopeful that we'll be able to recruit a quality vet, and having a vet on staff, it'll just be constant, right? We'll have the capacity to be doing constant spay and neuter. So right now, I would tell you, I think that discussion should be happening as part of the fiscal 25 budget when we have a few months under our belt, operating the center ourselves, understanding what the grant opportunities are and what the capacity for the vets are. We've been working, very well with Fresno Humane, but, it is difficult when we don't have complete control over how the center is being run. So I don't think we're there yet, but we could be in the future, and I know Alma will be sure to let us know when it's an issue of money.
And you were trying to get 2 vets, weren't you?
We're hoping for 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take 3 if we can get them.
Bump it up, bump up the salary. I mean, at some point, we're moving in the right direction. Clearly, from years ago, from where we were to where we are today, it's miles from where we were, and I think it's positive. But we still got a long way to go to address it. But I think as years go on, and I think this will be a years-long process, that center will improve, and I think it's something that hopefully we'll all be leading the way for other cities to rescue animals and spay and neuter them and have just a great operation there. So appreciate all the work.
Just as an FYI, in my research about spay and neuter, typically a city or an organization will not really see a result until about 10 years later. So it's going to be a patient game, but we are willing to make those commitments once we're ready.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on the dais with questions for the deputy? Yes, Mike?
Sorry about that. Just wanted to say for my colleagues, this is another very special moment. This is, in the matter of months, the 2nd new department we're creating. I mean, to be serve on this council, to be in the 5th largest city and the 4th largest economy in the world, and the level of service we're providing more, it's just amazing. It's not big government. It's good government. It's good government.
Big enough government.
Big enough. Yeah, good government. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take it out to the public at this time. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak on item 3B? Oh, did you have something, City Manager? Please go.
Yeah, and not to embarrass Alma further, but I would be remiss. Working in the city manager's office is no easy feat. We have a million things coming to us at any given day. And, Alma traditionally has been sort of our go-to budget person, as all of you have seen, and she's so capable and so detail-oriented. So when this project came up as to, oh my gosh, we got to do this animal center thing, who's going to help me with this? And Alma's the one who stood up and said, I'll do it. And although, of course, she's never operated in that world, but due to her ability to be detail-oriented and, she is educated in the area of organizational management, I think she's putting her degree to work. But I'm so thankful for all of her effort. Going into something that we've never done before as a city. None of us have any experience doing this, but she has just dived right into the deep end. She's spending most of her time on site to be able to learn alongside and watch what Fresno Humane is doing. So we can, obviously see how it works from their perspective, but then also having the frame of mind of, okay, like we could maybe do something a little better in this area and, maybe a little more structure to this area. So I'm so thankful for Alma's perseverance in getting us through to this point. Again, we have a ways to go still. We've come a long way, but thank you, Alma. I know she gets a little nervous coming in here and being the leader on an issue, but I'm so thankful for all of her work and, frankly, the whole team. It has been a total team effort from personnel, from facilities, from finance, budget, everybody. So thank you to everyone who has been involved in this. We'll keep plodding along and doing the best that we can do. And I really, really believe at the end of the day, we're going to be looked upon as how a city should operate an animal center. I think we are going to be the model for bringing the structure of government into a world that generally deals on compassion, empathy, and emotion. I think it's going to be a really great mixture of structure along with those qualities of the people that work there. I really believe we're going to be the shining stars. So Alma, thank you. Thank you to the whole team. Council, thank you for all of your support along the way.
City Clerk, do we have anybody online?
She'd rather
Yes, no
deal with
public
cats and dogs than us.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, the item passes 6-0. All right, council, grab a Snickers because we are headed to closed session. City Attorney, could you please read what the items are and whether or not we'll be reporting anything out afterwards?
Yes. We're in closed session today. We have conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Haven number 20, LLC versus City of Fresno. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, City of Fresno versus Pinedale County Water District. And conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, one potential case. We may have reportable items after closed session.
Thank you. We'll see everybody here next council meeting.
Okay, there was no reportable items after closed session.
Meeting adjourned at 12:45. All done.